The big NSCC 2026.
This guy. Did you go shopping today?
Oh no, so you know how I took the wrong, okay, I was supposed to take the 767 to here.
Yeah.
But then I took the 767 to the other way,
Oh, right.
Yeah, because like, for some reason, there's like two of them that have the same number, 767.
Yeah.
So one was going to Chadstone, SC, so I took that one, and I ended up in Chadstone SC. So, and I had like 30 minutes to kill for the bus to come.
Yeah.
So I just grabbed something to eat.
Good afternoon, Min. How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Pretty well, thank you.
The weather's a bit, actually, I don't know. The weather's pretty bad, yeah.
You got to work with what you got.
Yeah.
But, oh well, I kind of made it work. Got a bit of a barrier going on in case the wind blows the stuff under the top. But so far, it's looking promising, yeah.
If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
So thank you for participating in the
no
podcast.
No worries, yeah.
And it's good to see you again because like the last time we saw each other, it was during the NSCC.
NSCC. Yeah.
Or is it the
NSCC. I
Yeah,
know
NSCC,
some
yeah.
people call it NCSS, but it's the NSCC.
Okay, yeah, the NSCC.
like-
National Schools Constitutional
Yeah,
Convention.
about 2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks ago.
Around the end of March, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, how did you find out about the opportunity and get in?
How did I find out about the opportunity? I found out about the opportunity through just research. Like,
Yeah.
I think towards like the end of last year, so that was when I was like at the tail end of me being in year 11. I tried to branch out and find some opportunities that related to like politics and like law and, you know, like public speaking, debating. And I came across the NSCC. And funnily enough, actually, I remember when I was actually researching it, the application form actually was like due that week.
Yeah.
Because I remember like they had a very, very short window for like the applications. So I ended up just like pulling in all night, just trying to get that application in.
Yeah.
And I got in. I think what really stood out to me in the NSCC was that I was able to meet not just like politicians and like members of parliament, which is probably one of the big reasons that not just myself, but also like other students who were there, I'm not too sure, including yourself, that's one of the reasons they wanted to go. But another reason why I wanted to go or I wanted to attend was because I was actually able to meet like-minded students like yourself, and not just from Victoria, but also, you know, other states as well.
Yeah.
I think, especially at my school, when it comes to sort of not so much public speaking and debating, but more so like politics and whatnot, my school doesn't really get involved with that, especially, I guess, like the general like culture and atmosphere of the school. There's no real focus on politics and like political views and just like in general, like what's going on in the world right now, like, you know, like the fuel prices and whatnot, like the oil crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, you know, like in general, like when I talk to my friends about that, like they don't really like fully grasp the severity and like the situation of it. And so going into the opportunity, I was really like keen on just finding other people who had my sort of interest in, you know, like international issues and politics. And I think I got that. Like, excluding myself, there was 112 other students, including yourself, from not just Victoria, but also all the other states and territories, you know, Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, etc. And I was really able to really just connect with them a lot more easily because, as I said, you know, they like politics as well, and then they were more keen to actually have an open discussion with me about, you know, these types of issues. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also with the like-mindedness, in your schools and stuff, you might know a lot of people, but a lot of people might have this kind of shyness to put themselves out there and like really do stuff or like improve themselves in ways where, you know, it might be public speaking, it might be something else. And with this opportunity, you see a lot more like-minded people that were willing to put themselves out there, improve themselves, take a small risk, you know, go to another state for 3 days and just make new connections there. Whereas like in school, sometimes in our friend groups, people might not be as motivating for you to go out and put your hand up for certain opportunities or go do something. You might be with your group, you might be looking at these opportunities. Hey, I want to do this. I want to try this. Do you want to think about it? And they might just be like, nah, Siebes, or, you know, they just stick to the usual habits without trying to be more in a way.
Yeah, I do sort of reciprocate that sort of what you just said, especially at my school. In terms of like general participation, whether it be, you know, sports, arts, social justice, like, you know, clubs and whatnot, our school is actually pretty good at that. We have a point system and whatnot that connects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander roots. I won't go too in depth, but in general, like participation at my school is actually quite good compared to a lot of other schools, I guess, in general. But when it comes to, I guess, like, as you said, speaking in my friend groups and just in general speaking to my friends about, you know, hey, did you hear about the oil crisis that's going on? Or hey, did you hear what I don't know, like North Korea or like China's doing, and they don't really get involved in those sorts of conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't really blame them. Again, like they have their own interests. But yeah, it's sort of like hard to sort of, I think for a lot of the other delegates and also myself, it's really hard to find like-minded people, as you said, who are just willing to engage in these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
And especially with like politics, especially in like civics engagement within young people.
Yeah.
Not just at my school, but I guess in general, not just in Australia, but also across the world, it's been going down a lot. And I think that's something that is actually really worrying because in more than one way or another, politics is like, it basically shapes our entire lives. Like all our lives run on money, and the government and politics are involved with money. I'm not too sure if you remember at the NSCC, I think it was one of the keynote speakers, I can't remember her name or their name, but she was like, basically, if there's no money, that means the government can't run the economy or the country, and then nobody can really like live their lives because again, there's no money thrown through the economy, such as Medicare, Centrelink payment services, etc. And yeah, that's just we're really, really worrying. And I guess also extending, I know I'm going a bit off, but I guess extending that to sort of like voting as well. If young people aren't able to make an informed choice about, what political party should I vote for, like which or how should I vote based on my views and values, like in general, young people just don't know about that. And they might just choose somebody to vote on randomly. But that's really bad because I was talking to one of my members of parliament for the state, for a state electorate, and she was really hammering down this idea of every single vote counts. And I guess sort of going off on another tangent, I remember, I think last week it was revealed that, again, I'm not trying to point out my political affiliation, but I remember on the news headlines there was this headline about One Nation winning their 4th seat in South Australia by less than like 100 votes. And if that doesn't show how important your every single vote is, then I don't know what is. But yeah.
Yeah, good points. And also going back to the vote thing, like if we, NSCC, going back to that, we had a referendum vote at the end of the debate and we ended up winning with double majority, but by 1 vote.
Yeah.
Which really goes to show how much 1 vote could swing an entire decision, like changing the constitution.
Yeah, and I guess with the referendum or the mock referendum for changing Section 53 of the Constitution, in terms of like the double majority, it was more so a double majority for no, because again, when we talk about a double majority, we talk about a majority or at least 4 of the 6 of the states having voting yes, and then obviously the national majority. But then and especially with that mock referendum as well, there was in total 113 of us. So there was no way of there being a tie for the actual national majority vote as well. But yeah, I do agree with your point on how even 1 vote can really make a difference. And yeah, I guess with that as well, coming up with my sort of vote on the ballot paper, whether to vote yes or no, I was really on the fence about that because again, I'm not too sure if you were as well, but like the amount of compelling arguments for yes and no, like it was pretty much neck and neck. And again, like if I voted yes, even though the referendum wouldn't have gone through, we still would have gotten the national majority for yes, because it would have been 57 yes votes to 56 no votes. But I ended up choosing no, and I guess that swung to the no camp anyway. So.
Yeah. And also, like, I wanted to quickly point out the cap that I'm wearing.
Oh, yeah.
On the Canberra trip. I think you also got one as well.
I think so, yeah. It was at the airport from memory. Yeah, airport, yeah.
Yeah, to a shop. Little Canberra reference. What were your first feelings or thoughts when you first got to the Melbourne airport and first saw the other delegates that you might be joining? How did you feel and what were you thinking at the time?
I guess like on the day, obviously we had to I had to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning just to get that out of the way. Basically, it was still dark out when I got to the airport. I was feeling a bit of like a mix of emotions. Obviously, I was excited to I was excited to not only meet my fellow delegates, but also I was really pumped, I guess, to also meet other MPs and other people who work at Parliament House on that day as well, because we did go to Parliament House on that Tuesday on the first day. But I was also, I guess, a bit, I wouldn't say nervous, but I was a bit, I guess, like apprehensive. I guess like initially I was apprehensive like to meet new people, especially like new young people. Like obviously I was like going into there, as I mentioned before, going into the convention, I was sort of hoping, I can meet like-minded people who were as interested or even more interested in politics and, legal studies and whatnot than I was. But again, it wasn't a guarantee. But then when I actually, got to the airport and I saw you chatting with Luke, and I sort of went up to you guys and you said hello, and then we started interacting, and we started interacting with some of the other delegates who were just arriving as well, and the ones who were already there. And yeah, it was actually really, really nice. It's sort of, in terms of my expectations of being around people who, were really inviting, that sort of blew my expectation away, and that sort of cascaded or like snowballed into me having like an extremely good experience with the people like in the Victorian delegation, but also like in general, just from all the other states and territories as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a bit of a shock, because like as young people, we know in high school that a lot of people can be pretty judgy, like
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
about everyone else, especially like if they don't really know them, they stick to their friend group. But now you didn't really have a friend group to stick to, and everyone just became so open to just chatting with everyone and just meeting everyone, and it was like pretty surprising in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it was definitely. But I guess also on that, meeting people from like other schools as well, but also not just other schools, but also like other parts of Victoria. Because I think all my life I've sort of grown up in the western suburbs of Melbourne. When we were chatting before, I sort of mentioned how I don't really travel to the east side of Melbourne as well. And that's sort of like very, very limited to me in terms of like the kind of people that I can meet. Like in terms of like the kind of new people I can meet. And so like really like at the airport when we were in just that group of Victorian delegates, being able to meet people who were just from all across Victoria, from regional, the east, such as yourself, also like
The west.
Sunbury, Geelong as well. It was really engaging, and it was really really new experience for me because, like as I said, I've grown up in West Melbourne all my life, and just like meeting those kind of new people who weren't also from, in general, just who weren't also from Melbourne as well, was really, really good as well. And also I got to sort of know like, because I'm really, really big on student leadership at my school, and also like leadership outside of school as well. So also meeting like other college captains and other school leaders, and like seeing how their schools like do leadership and like how they plan their events. It was like really, really eye-opening for me, and I really, really enjoyed those discussions. And I think that sort of further cascaded, or that further snowballed into me like really, really gets being like really, really, how would you call it? Being more open to actually chatting with like the Victorian delegates and like the other delegates as well. Because again, like in general, that's just like that sense of unfamiliarity sort of also helped me sort of step out of my comfort zone. In general, like I don't really have like a fear towards meeting new people, but but there is that sort of like lingering sense of, you really don't know them. How do you come off as like, inviting and like actually wanting to know them rather than wanting to know them because you sort of have to.
So when we went to the Parliament House and we did like the tours and stuff, and we also saw like the question time, and Milton Dick, the speaker, also spoke to us and all of that. I wanted to ask you about your favorite aspects of that, but also what were your biggest takeaways when you experienced the Parliament and like the question time live and seeing kind of how the government works?
So aspects and takeaways?
Yeah.
I think my favorite aspects of Parliament House was just, I think, because we were given tours of Parliament House, very, very short one though, not like, around the entire building, but like mainly like the foyer and like the different like artifacts. But I think the aspects would include really just like knowing the history of like why Parliament, like the new Parliament House was actually built. Obviously to cater for a growing, not just a growing Australian population, but also a growing number of members of Parliament who represent the Australian people. And not just like that, but like also just like more like symbolic aspects that we learnt about. I think our tour guide, they talked about like how, like in the foyer, like the different marble colours would actually represent, the House of Representatives, and then the red marble, which was flown in from Italy or another country, was represented the Senate. And that really stuck out to me because like so much care went into, creating Parliament House, and in general, just so much care went into this place that would ultimately represent the voice of the Australian people, and that really stood out to me. And I guess also like when we were walking around that, not that fountain area, but that area with like the running water in the middle, and like with the sort of like
The like square.
Yeah, the square balcony, not the balcony, but it was like that square like overhang thing.
Yeah.
And like, all like the other like the portraits of like Queen Elizabeth, Bob Catter, that was pretty funny. Scott Morrison, all these other prime ministers. I think really just seeing like those portraits in person and just like seeing like the history of like the country was like, it was really, really like mesmerizing for me, because again, like those prime ministers, those famous people, Queen Elizabeth, like they once walked the corridors of Parliament House, pretty much every single day. And, you know, it's being a part of that, I guess, experience and that like spiritual sense of, I guess, like belonging, if I could call it that. It was like really like, it was really like heartwarming.
Yes.
For me.
I have no idea what's going on with
I
this roof
think
right
it's the
now.
wind.
Is it the wind?
Yeah, I'm not getting too wet, so I'll be
Okay.
fine.
Hopefully it doesn't keep moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe, actually, no, I think I can move back a bit.
Yeah, we could probably move the chair.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay, that's
So aspects, and what was the other
takeaways?
takeaways from, definitely. I think my key takeaways, I guess, even before the question time was getting, I guess, like a bit of like a talk or like a speech from Milton Dick, the Speaker of the House of Reps. I think he's the member for Oxley, the member for Oxley. And I think I really, like his speech before we went into question time really stood out to me. I'm just going to ignore the rain. It really stood out to me because I could see his passion for like really engaging young people in like civics education and like politics. I think, because I know he runs this program called Parliament in Schools, where he actually visits different schools across Australia, and not just like in the major cities, but also in regional areas as well. I remember he said that he visited a school with only like 2 students in it in one of the regional areas in one of the cities. And that was really eye-opening for me because, again, like now I think like obviously like from like my experiences at school, like, you know, that lack of like interest in politics, I guess, like from students is like, it's really absent in like sort of my sort of environment. But then like seeing like, you know, one of our country's leaders, one of our members of parliament rising up and basically like wanting to actually like improve that, it was like really eye-opening for me. And
Definitely,
and like also just like when he was performing his own question time, or like when he was performing his own like section where he was answering our questions, like I could tell like he really had a passion for like not just young people, but also like us being there and us not just representing our, you know, federal electorates, but also just like in general being interested and in politics and being there, you know, to be like a future prime minister or future member of parliament or like a future speaker of House of Reps. And I think that really like, that didn't just warm his heart, I think, but that also warmed our hearts as well. And I could just like see that he cared. But I think in terms of, I guess, moving on to the question time, I guess one of the funny things, I'll just get one of the funny things out of the way first.
Yeah, definitely.
I think when he was addressing us 1 or 2 hours before, so in that same session, I think one of the questions that one of the student delegates asked was, how often do you like kick out people in question time? And I think one of his answers was not often, or it was either not often or I don't like to kick people out of question time. And then obviously during question time, within the first like, I think 10 to 15 minutes, he kicked out about like 2 members of parliament from the opposition. So that was really like, I think it was humbling for him, and it was really funny, like especially with us in the gallery on the top left, I think. In the top left. It was really funny because again, we could also like see like the government, so the Labour Party, like sort of like throwing shade at the opposition, and it was like quite funny to see them get like the opposition get riled up. Again, I guess like in general, like the question time as well. The question time was like really like euphoric in a way. I think whenever like you see like question time and speakers and like members of parliament speaking, and, you know, like the 2 sides fighting on TV, it's sort of like, you know, why are they arguing like this much? Like, why are they acting like babies, right? But then like when we were actually there, it was quite hard for me to fathom like, hold on, this is what they do on TV. It was like really hard to like process like, oh, we were actually there, and like, we were actually there, and like we could actually like hear them argue. We can hear them, you know, throwing shade at each other. We could hear the speaker Milton Dick, you know, calling out members for, you know, speaking when they weren't supposed to speak. He was issuing out standing orders. He was just calling out members of parliament. It was funny because, again, I think what a lot of people describe question time is as a bunch of babies or a bunch of children arguing, which probably is like the best like analogy for it. But also like, it was just really interesting to see like that, and also just like in general, I guess like plus the banter, but also like the questions that were being asked by the opposition, but also like the members who went on the front bench of the Labour Party. It was really interesting to see like how the opposition would like ask questions, and then how the Labour Party or like whoever was called to speak on their portfolio would actually answer. It was really interesting because like at the end of every single, I guess, like question or like question answer that somebody in the Labour Party who was in charge of a portfolio would end up saying, they would always end it off in like the most like, yeah, I got you there. Because like in general, like the opposition would ask questions that sort of like try to downplay the Labour Party's like commitments and like the policies and whatnot. But the Labour Party member who would always answer those questions, they would always like bite back. And also like in general, like when they would finish their speech, like you could tell like the vibe, like they would end their speech on like a good note, or like a good note, or like a note where like, you know, they came out on top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Just gonna move that.
Yeah, I've never seen this before where the range is kind of like a diagonal right
Yeah,
in
I
between.
think the rain's up there, but then like since like there's no wind, it's sort of like pulling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's interesting, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Interesting scenery for the
yeah.
video, but
Yeah.
yeah. And it was definitely interesting because you also saw a bit of the like party politics where they're kind of having like banter, like saying like, you know, Liberals never do this, or like, you know, Labour's at it again, or like, and also you saw a lot that their own parties would ask their own people questions to make themselves look good, or give an answer about like, you know, hey, what are we doing that's so great? And then they say, oh, well, thank you for that question. Here's what we've been doing so great.
Yeah, definitely. I think that happens more so for like the party that's in government.
Yeah.
So obviously the Labour Party members on the backbench would ask their own party questions, and I guess not to like inflate their egos, but also just to like boast about like their achievements to the opposition as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the members in the backbench for the Labour Party asked like what the Labour Party government was actually doing to address the fuel crisis. But then obviously the climate change and energy minister, Chris Bowen, would sort of say like, oh, I would like to thank the member for XYZ for their question. And then they would sort of like compliment that member of parliament for some reason. And then they would sort of give like facts and statistics as to, oh, this is what Australia is doing to actually address the fuel crisis. This is what Australia is doing to mitigate the effects of inflation and rising prices for fuel prices that Australians had to afford and whatnot. And yeah, I do agree like that. I guess like bit of party politics really pulls through in question time. Yeah, and it really pulls through, and it really just comes to life, and it really just shows like how like the different parties, especially when it comes to the Labour Party on the left, and then the opposition, so which is the coalition, which is made up of the Liberals and Nationals, like their ideologies. So obviously, Labour's more into like Medicare, like wages, job growth, housing growth, etc. But then the opposition is more like conservative, and they're more into like I forgot what their policies was because I'm not really familiar with the opposition.
I think like
their
nuclear for 40-year plan, and then like cutting taxes on like some things.
Yeah, something like that. But I think one of their major sort of like ideological like factors or like features is like energy, like more so like fossil fuel energy. Yeah, it was really interesting to see like those party politics like really come to life. Because I think like in general, like especially within school, we learn about like we might learn about the different parties. Obviously, like you have Labor, the Coalition, the Greens, like different independents in the crossbench, but we don't actually see like those policies like play out. We sort of just like learn about, oh, you know, this is what the Labor Party does, and this is what they're for, and this is what the opposition does, and this is what they're for. But we don't actually like see that, not so like manifest, but like we don't really see that like come to life.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Amelia. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Pretty well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. You've missed out on a little bit of action, as you can see from the whole setting, but that's all right. Good to see you again. Last time we saw each other was the NSCC. If that's correct, yeah.
Yeah,
National
NSCC,
Schools
NSCC,
Constitutional
yep.
Convention. Yep. So, as another Victorian delegate like ours, I was wondering what was your takes and what were your first feelings and thoughts when you first kind of started seeing everyone for the first time at like the airport?
Well, I was a regional delegate, so I stayed overnight on Monday.
Right,
And
yeah.
I met all the other regional delegates, who were lovely, and so we kind of had this like bonding thing over dinner. But it was really interesting because everyone's sort of got a very similar interest in sort of the Constitution, which is a random interest to have, I think. But it was really interesting, and the thing I noticed a lot, especially with all the delegates, was the perspective that people had depended a lot on where they were from. The ones that were really regional, like Beechworth, Mildura, had a really different perspective to people from like Ballarat, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
So like you guys were already Oh, you were at a separate hotel near the airport.
Yeah, we stayed at the airport hotel on Monday night.
Yeah, right. Did you get up to anything there? Like, were you doing like a bingo or? No,
I
just
think
leave
they
it.
did, but we had to get up at 5:30 the next morning, so it went.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. And then I was also wondering, because on the first day, we also did the Parliament House like kind of tour and like all of that. I was wondering what were your takeaways and kind of thoughts and feelings you had while going through the kind of semi-surreal experience of seeing how the government and how like the country works.
At the start, I had been to Parliament House before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but just like to see it. So the tour was really good, I thought. And it's really cool. I hadn't been there on a sitting day, so sort of seeing how it worked when everyone was working was really cool as well. And question time was great. Could have been more dramatic, but that's.
I guess, fair enough, yeah. Yeah. Maybe the Senate. Is it the Senate? Maybe the Senate may be more interesting.
No,
Maybe.
no, I think the House of Reps is more interesting.
Maybe,
than
yeah. I mean,
question
it
time.
depends who's like in the Senate, like who's not banned.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I think the viewers would know a lot about that, yeah.
They might.
they might.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bit of an inside thing. I wanted to learn and ask both of you this question, but on the like day 2 and I think maybe a little bit of day 1 and 3, who were your favorite speakers during the like event, or which one had the speech or keynote that really stuck out to you and kind of was the most memorable?
I think it would have been the Governor General when we went to her residence in Canberra, because she actually does live on that residence. I think what really stood out in her speech was, I think like her care and her support for the NSCC program, but also like young people getting involved in politics, democracy, civics education, and also like the Constitution as well. And I remember in her speech when we were all like gathered around like that lectern with like the flags behind her, I think what really stood out to me were 2 words. I think when she was like addressing us as like young people and like in general just like young people trying to get involved into politics or who are curious about politics, she said for us to be curious. And that really that's still stuck with me to this day, because again, like without curiosity, we won't be able, like we as young people, we won't be able to, not just like identify like the issues in our local communities, but also just like advocate and speak up for our local issues as well. So she was just like an amazing person. Like I remember when we were in Government House, she signed all of our constitutions. Not only that, but she also, because we had like a whole like conga line of like just like going out the door of her office, I think it was, and she was just like signing. Not only was she like signing our constitutions, but she was like willing to answer like at least like one question from all of us, and that just like shows like how much she like cared for us being there, but also like how supportive of the program she was as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And her assistant will always take like thousands of photos.
The army, one of the cadet guy. Yeah. Oh, also I remember that one clip, or that one photo or video that was going around of her in her golf cart or like her buggy. Yeah. Oh my god, that was so funny. And then I would remember people were posting on their stories like, oh, the first in my bloodline to see the Governor General riding in a buggy or something. that was also another highlight as well. But yeah, that was me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yourself, Amelie?
Probably the senators on, what was it, end of day 2 or day 3? I can't remember. Having the understanding of the constitutional crisis from both parties was really interesting, and they were just very entertaining.
Definitely.
It was great. Or the Governor General. She was really good.
Yeah, those are definitely some good picks, because like the other 2, they had like this banter between each other. Like,
because they were legit, like, they were ex-senators from memory of like the opposite parties in South Australia. So like one was Labor, one was Liberals. Like they were just like going off like each other. But like I think like the really interesting dynamic between that was like they were still friends.
Yeah.
Like even though they had like differing political opinions on either side of the river, they were still able to have deep debates and conversations, not just with us, but also with each other, but still respect each other's opinions. I'm like, it's really rare to see that as well, because especially like when it comes to like friendships, I've seen a lot of friendships, and again, this is going off a bit, like I've seen a lot of friendships sort of like drift apart because of differing political views. And I think it's a real rare skill to have, to not only like be friends with someone with differing political views, but also just like respecting those political views as well was really, really was really, really interesting.
It is. And especially in like the politician side, like it's kind of rare to see nowadays versus in the olden days when politicians who are opposite like parties and stuff still getting along. And also having civil debates rather than picking at character traits. Because like, I can think of one good example in the US of someone who rose in politics who kept picking at more like personal traits of different like opposition and stuff. What was another one like? Basically, you know, he does it a lot, way too much. Yeah, and, you know, like this guy,
Oh, don't get me started on your speech.
Yeah.
You should show the podcast a photo when you edit. Just like
Maybe, yeah.
put a little clip of you speaking in that certain accent.
Yeah, bump up the saturation to make my face orange for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Also, old Parliament House. So we were like walking around it, but we were also like sitting in the seats as well. How did you find that kind of experience, being in the old Parliament House and seeing kind of the history of like how the government was in the country?
It was really interesting. As again, before Amelia got here, I was talking about like how the new Parliament House was built to accommodate for like a growing Australian population.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we couldn't fit as much MPs and senators into that old Parliament House, which would become old Parliament House in the museum. It was really interesting to see because again we got to go into the House of Reps chamber, or like the green chamber, and also like the Senate chamber with the red, and also just hearing from like the tour guides as well, like you know, like that history behind, in general, like what I said, just like why a new Parliament House had to be built, but also just like sitting in those same seats because obviously like in the new Parliament House, especially during question time, we weren't able to actually like sit in those seats because, you know, we weren't MPs, right? But then like in old Parliament House, when we were getting toured and also when we were speaking, well, when we were hearing from the keynote speakers, I think her name was Professor Toomey, one of them was Professor Toomey. We were actually able to sit in those seats and like sitting in the seats of like past MPs from like, you know, like last century. It was like really, really, it was like, again, like as I said before Amelia got here, it was really, really,
Surreal.
yeah, surreal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I guess like on the tour, aside from like, you know, going in the different chambers of the House and the Senate, getting like a tour of like the entire, I guess like premise of old Parliament House as well. I guess like seeing like the different statues and like, you know, just like the different architecture and like the difference in architecture between old Parliament House and the new Parliament House, you know, just up the hill. Like it was really, really interesting. Yeah.
Emily, your takeaways?
It was also very fitting, I think, being able to be where, because obviously the convention was about Section 53, but also the constitutional crisis in 1975. So you're in the House of Representatives where Prime Minister Whitlam was being Prime Minister. So I think it was very fitting for that as well. It also sort of meant that you got an understanding of the environment and just how crowded it was getting, because it is very small. And I didn't actually realise how small it was going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But also, yeah, it sort of just provided some historical context and the tour at the end of the whole museum. And I found really interesting going into the old press offices, you know, where the ABC was broadcasting from. It was really cool, and it's super cool how it's been preserved to look how it was. And yeah, I think the historical context was really important.
Now I want to go to like day 3, and I think we also did this in day 2. But I think this was also in the old Parliament House, but in the separate section. We did our own debates in a way, but we were grouped up with people from other states and territories who were not delegates from our state and we didn't really spend as much time with, but then we automatically started kind of teams against, maybe not against each other, but depending on your political views on the section, we kind of worked together on that. And I was wondering about your experiences and your thoughts and feelings you had during the whole process of you're working in the team, you're writing notes, you're learning about Section 53 for probably the first time, and you're figuring out how to make compelling arguments for or against, and then you're getting your mindset convinced or changed by different people's points of view. So I was wondering how you guys felt through all of that.
It was really, really interesting and also engaging for me because I think you were talking about the group discussions, right, with the different, on the different like numbered tables. You're talking, especially within those sessions where we had to, because after the session, like each of those sessions, we had to like make not like a speech, but also just like report back on like what like our discussions were. So I think like in those discussions when we were like, because again, like as you said, like it was basically one minimum of one student from each state and territory. And it was really interesting to see like the different like views and opinions of other people from other states, because again, like I think I didn't really like fully grasp or like realize like how big of a difference someone's political opinions and views can be, even in the same country, but also just like in being in different states and territories. Obviously, like when Australia was becoming a federation in the lead up to 1901, when Australia actually became a country, obviously New South Wales and Victoria were the two biggest, I guess, like colonies at the time. They're also the same, well, they're the same now in the respect that like they're the biggest like states in like Australia. And that really stood out to me because again, that difference in like the views and values of like Victoria and New South Wales, it was so different to what like Western Australia, like the delegates of Western Australia were saying, and the delegates in Queensland and South Australia were saying. And it like really opened my eyes into like, oh, like, you know, not everything's about like Victoria, or not everything's about like New South Wales. Like there's other states in our country, like, and territories in our country, like they also make a difference as well. And like they also, like their voices also matter as well. And yeah, it really just like opened my eyes, I think.
Definitely, yeah. Amelie?
Mine's almost like the opposite, but maybe that was just my group, because I think I expected there to be more of a difference. And then sort of while we were talking, it's like, oh, I completely forgot that you were from a different state until break time when we're talking about the subjects that we're doing. I'm like, that's a weird subject to be doing. And then I realised that they're not doing this here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really similar. But I mean, it does come down to where, even like I said about the regional delegates, is that I can assume that a lot of the people in my group were from urban parts of their states. I didn't have anyone that was super rural or regional, which will have a huge difference in their perspectives on things. But yeah, it was really interesting. And the dynamic that we had sort of was interesting as well. People had very, like, they gravitated towards leadership roles, or they really wanted to speak, or they really didn't. So that was really interesting. It's like, it was a big experiment in socialization, I thought, but it was really interesting.
Definitely, yeah. It's amazing kind of how like-minded, even though they're like from different states and territories, I found, was that like, hey, you're from Queensland, Northern Territory, New South Wales, Western Australia, South Australia, but it feels like I'm just talking to someone else who just lives around the corner.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was a bit of a surprise until you kind of dive deep in like kind of their local regional news, like talking about, I guess, NDIS situation in New South Wales, or like talking about the crocodiles in Queensland, but that was more North Queensland.
Yeah, that one Queensland senator, Bob Catter. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a pretty surreal and interesting experience that you don't really experience or can't really get the opportunity to. Like, it's like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. I'm wondering if they'll make future kind of government funded projects like this as well.
I think they have. I know I spoke to you before Emily got here about the Speaker of the House of Reps, Milton Dick. He started the first National Youth Parliament this year. And I remember in his address to us, like a few hours before question time, he was like, ever since I became the Speaker of the House of Reps in 2022, I've been fighting to actually get this through. Like, it's taken him basically 3 years to actually get this through. And like, obviously, like, you probably already know, like, in your different like in the different states and territories, they have their own like state youth parliaments. But again, like having one on like a national level was like I'm sure like a lot of work went into it, and I think it's a really good opportunity as well. And I think,
also like making connections with the people in other states and like
definitely
coming to a consensus where you agree like, oh, this is beneficial for all of us, not just like us in the urban or us in the regional, or like us Vic and New South Wales teaming up and like screw everyone else. Like,
it's such a big country as well, so it's
huge.
really difficult to get the representatives from each part of the country.
Yeah, I think Amy from Beechworth, I think she actually got into the...
Did she?
Yeah, I think she did. I think she posted on her story, I think. I can't remember what her federal electorate was, but represent Vic.
Yeah.
Sweet. Because like, I don't know, I just forgot what I was saying.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm moving back to the soapboxes and stuff, but also I'm wondering, why Section 53?
What do you mean by that? Like,
I mean, why is it important for us to be debating Section 53 versus the other sections?
It's not. And I genuinely, it's not that important. And I think that's probably why they chose it. Because it's not something that's like super divisive. It's like, we'll be okay either way. And it's not like they were debating marriage laws or healthcare
yeah.
laws or education or something. But I'll say, because it was kind of, I think I read through it the first time and I'm like, this is so boring. Why would you
Yeah.
think that's a bills? But
Yeah.
it's really interesting once you get into it. It's a good choice.
It got pretty heated as well.
Yeah, like especially the mock referendum that we had, like
Yeah.
that really reflected like how like divisive like all the delegates in total were. Like again, like getting beaten by like one vote, 56 to 57. But in general,
And it's funny how people would steal different parts from each other's like.
oh
votes.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
And I love that.
Like someone mentioned like the monkey with a gun or something, and like
Yeah, they were continuing that
metaphor went
joke.
on
Yeah,
for 4 different people.
yeah, but
It
it
went on
was really
wild,
funny
yeah.
though. Yeah.
it was funny. Yeah. I did steal it though, like when I said like an army of monkeys with a gun,
Yeah.
and then I said if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And someone stole it and said if it ain't broke, you should fix it or something. Like they just flipped the meaning. But it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun as well. Like
It
even though
was.
like people were like stealing their own jokes, I think like during the soapbox sessions, like that was when people had like probably like some like the most fun. I reckon like everybody was just like laughing, like being supportive of each other, and obviously like there were some speakers who were less confident than others.
Yeah.
Some speakers who like were like speaking like at like 200 words per minute or something. But like in general, like in the end, like everybody would like clap and like cheer and whatnot. I think that's like that supportive environment was like that sort of uplifted other people as well. Yeah.
It definitely helped a lot, like get people out of their comfort
Yeah.
zones and stuff. Yeah. Okay, this will be a quick short one. What was your favorite meal during the 3 days?
Meal.
Yeah.
The lemon part that I had at the National Press Club was really good. But that was the only part of that meal that I liked,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
I think probably same in like the National Press Club, because like all the food that we had at the hotel and for dinner and for like well not for dinner but for like for lunch and like for breakfast was like sort of like normal
Kids'
breakfast food.
Lunchable snack box.
I mean like pretty much, but like more like fancy and not fancy but like more like
Bigger.
bougie. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think probably like during the like the main course,
Yeah.
after the entree for the National Press Club, we had either steak or chicken. I think it was Wagyu steak actually, then or chicken. That was probably the best food in terms of like.
You enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Did you have the steak?
Yeah, I had the steak.
Oh, you lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
steaks are good.
I had summer for one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, yeah. I had some of my half of my steak and then I traded for someone else's chicken.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want it, so like.
Yeah. Oh, that was Mitch.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was Mitch.
yeah.
Yeah, because like, okay, initially, like, okay, before he asked you, he asked me, oh, could I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, oh, if you get the steak, could we trade? And I was like, oh yeah. But then like I ended up flaking on the last minute. But then he ended up asking you.
Yeah.
Cause like when I saw the steak, I was like, oh, hold on, this might actually taste
Really good.
Yeah, this might actually taste like really, really good. So I don't know, maybe just like he doesn't like chicken or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Or maybe it's still not Wagyu.
Yeah, probably. That's fine.
Yeah. Now, I think it'll be good to go into, I guess, more personal questions. Okay, Amelie,
Yes.
I heard you're a superstar musician, but what instruments do you know and which ones do you play?
If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
I play alto saxophone and flute, but I can also play baritone sax and tenor sax. And I can kind of play the piano, and I'm classically trained singer.
Yeah. And like, what got you interested in like learning those instruments versus, I guess, some other ones like piano?
I did used to learn piano. My
yeah.
grandma was a music teacher and my parents are both musicians. So I kind of just grew up around it. Hated piano. I was really, really bad at it. And then in year 8, there was a saxophone player called Candy Alpha that I really liked, and she was really cool. And so I just started learning that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And because I can double jobs.
Yeah, fair enough. And I also heard that you played in a band or in maybe even multiple bands and like you did performances.
Yes. So I'm in the Sweethearts band. Go check them out. It's a program that runs through a public school in Geelong. It's been around for 36 years, I think. It's sort of like a sporting club. Like we pay to be in it as a member. And then we do about 50 to 60 gigs a year. Professionally touring. We just had a tour up to Bright. We're supposed to have a Europe tour this year. It's a bit hit and miss right now because we have to fly through Dubai. But yeah, so we've gone on 10 tours in the last 36 years. But yeah, it's really cool. So I play lead alto in that. And then I'm also in a jazz band called Ruby Road.
Oh, so cool. I mean, since you're already doing these performances, you're already kind of like a professional. Like, are you gonna have your own or do you already have your own kind of artist page on like Spotify or SoundCloud?
I don't. I'm not much of a writer. I'm not very good at it. I do have a music Instagram page, which is Amelie Rusak Music, which go follow. But no, I don't. But Sweethearts do. And we're releasing an album this year. Unsure when. It'll be called A Woman's World.
Oh,
and
cool.
that'll come out on Spotify and Apple Music.
Yeah. And how have you found balancing all of your music commitments with, I guess, studying like year 12?
Okay. I did year 12 music and I finished a vet course that we do through Sweethearts, which is a certificate for music production through cohorts last year. So I don't have any music subjects this year, which means that it's a bit easier for me to go. We have a rehearsal once a week. So it's basically a music sport club kind of thing. So it's kind of just like a relief from everything else.
And they run like a vet course as well?
Yeah. So we have to do a vet course through it. It's unscored, but we get a 10% increase in our ATAR, and each year counts as a 3-4 sequence. So it's okay. But
yeah. And in the vet course, what were you like meant to do, or like what were the units and tasks?
So there's 14 units, which is 4 more than. So if you were going to do vet music in high school, you'd do a certificate 3, which you do 10 units. We do 2 songwriting units. We do an improvisation unit. Depending on the unit, there'll be different requirements. There's 3 assessed performances each year, which the requirements depend on what units you're doing at the same time. But yeah, it's really great. We do it in year 10 and 11. So you do it with all the other year 10 and 11s in the band. And it's just like a rolling program. So when I was in year 10, I did the second year while the second years did it. And then the next year I did the first year with all the first years, if that makes sense. It doesn't.
Yeah,
Cases like that
yeah,
makes no
it's like backwards a bit.
It's kind of backwards. It just means that it like rolls on. So you don't ever do the same course, and it means that they can teach the same course to everyone. And then the next year you'll do the other half of the course. Split it in half.
So instead of having a separate year 2 class, separate year 1, they just do like year 1, 2, 3, year 1, 2, 3, and like people just roll into it.
Pretty much, yeah.
And eventually like they just tick off all their boxes and...
Yeah, you'll do, so like we would do 7 units in the first year, and you'll like, there's always one big unit. So like I did copyright in my first year, but the year 11s that I did it with were doing copyright in their second year. And then I did the feasibility study and industry trends in my second year, and the year 10s were doing it in their first year.
Yeah.
And so it just switches it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I heard that you might be, or your family might be have different ethnicities.
Multicultural?
But yeah,
Multicultural.
that one.
Kind of. Yeah.
So what sort of cultural backgrounds or countries does some of your family come from or share?
My mum's side were most likely convicts, so there's not much there. But my dad's side, we came, to my understanding, it started in Portugal. We started in Portugal and then went to France for a couple 100 years. And then I counted, I'm 3rd generation Australian on my dad's side. So my great-grandpa came here from India, but I'm not ethnically Indian. I think we were just colonialists.
Yeah, right. And how have you found like your family incorporate the cultures, or like kind of in different family gatherings, have you like celebrated different parts of your cultures and had them interact with each other or like intersect?
Not really. All my siblings and I have French names, and so does my dad to an extent. So it's more that sort of thing. My sister and I both learned French at school, but it's never really been a very large part of our culture because it's quite minuscule in terms of everything. But yeah, we still have family in various places in the world.
Do you speak French?
Little bit, and I'm not going to.
Okay.
I understand and I can read it a lot better than I can speak it.
Yeah, okay. I'm not even going to try. I only know bonjour. Well, thank you very much, Amelie. Unless you had any more time, but I think... Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Amelie. Appreciate you being on the podcast. Hi, Minh. I know that you are a leader.
Yeah.
But not just any leader, a leader in your school. What sort of leader are you, and how did you become that leader?
So I'm one of my school's school captains, or well, we call it college captains because we just want to be different, I guess. and I guess how I sort of became a school leader, and I guess like also like getting like the school captain slash college captain. I'm just gonna call it college captain. Getting the college captain role sort of really started in like, I guess like year 9. I'll sort of like go like back because like I have a bunch of time. I'm sure you have a bunch of time. So I think in it was year 8 going into year 9, I decided to apply for a leadership role. That wasn't college captain. Obviously, it can't be a college captain in year 9, but I decided to apply for humanities captain. And yeah, I applied for only the humanities captain role. At our school, we can apply for a range of roles, but just in that application going from for like a year 9 role, but I was applying obviously in year 8 the year before. One of the reasons why I actually applied for only the humanities role, because I actually I was just good at humanities at school. Like I think in year 8, I had like an average of like 99 in my assessments and tests. But also I just like all like the things and like the subjects that we learned and like the topics that we learned like in like year 8 humanities, I just really enjoyed, and that sort of reflects in my scores. That reflected in my scores. And I just applied for it because like I had this genuine interest in like the humanities area. So, you know, politics, legal studies, history, geography, like all these like topics and like subjects in the humanities area, I really enjoyed, and that sort of like prospered into me like wanting to sort of represent that, I guess, like learning area or faculty at our school. So I ended up getting the role, and I obviously worked with my other humanities captains, because at our school we have two sites but 3 campuses. So there's 2 campuses on one site for some reason. I'm sure if the teachers at my school are watching, you can explain it or something. I don't know. Explain it in the comments. I don't know.
Yeah, comment down below.
So on my campus or my site, we would have myself and then 2 other humanities captains in the senior campus, and then I had another girl humanities captain in our girls campus, which is the other side. And so I would work with them all throughout year 9. And we did like small initiatives, such as I remember one time we hosted a humanities quiz at lunch, and then the other time I think I was directly responsible for proposing to our staff leadership team and our whole student leadership team like an idea of like a chess competition. And that was pretty good. That went through for the entirety of term 4. And I'm not too sure if some people at my school remember, if they're watching this, but because it was a bracket style competition and we got to the final, and the final didn't actually happen because 1, I couldn't be bothered, and 2, it was the end of the year. It was term 4. I was really burnt out. Well, not burnt out, but I was just really tired and I just couldn't be bothered.
Fair.
But I would say it was still successful. And I was also a home group representative in year 9 as well. You know what a home group is? Yeah, it's like do you have sort of like a form, like a home group?
Form?
Okay, I think they call that, so like homeroom, like you know how at like the start of the day, or like there's like might have this like one like really short class, or like where it's just like you have like a teacher and they give you like notices and announcements, and then it's not really like a subject. It's just like a general like do you have that?
Not like a year level assembly.
No, it's not a year level assembly.
It's like a class.
It's like a class that's dedicated to like notices and announcements, and like it's just like a sort of like a.
And do you have the same classmates every year for that?
No, it's different. So it's usually only students in like your year level.
Yeah.
But just like a small like group of students. Like at my school, we have about 20 to 25 students in these like home groups. It really is just sort of like, because like we call it the learner mentor program. So like I know at a lot of schools it's called home group, but we just call it learner mentor because in the name it's because we have a teacher assigned to each learner mentor, and they're a mentor to our learning. So they'll support us, whether that be through, because like obviously like they're actually subject teachers, so they might support us in like math, science, or any of our other subjects. They'll give us notices and announcements for like upcoming events and like lunchtime activities, clubs, sporting events, etc. They'll remind us of like forms to hand in, reflection days, excursions, etc. And in general, it's just sort of like a bit of like a downtime for like school, like students in school. And so so I was like a representative for my home group, or like learner mentor in year 9. I was also in year 10 as well. So for 2 years straight, I'm a homeroom, like a representative, and I was also a college ambassador. That's another leadership role. So the learner mentor representative and the college ambassador were also leadership roles that we offer at our college. I keep on saying college, but again, like our school, like my school has college at the end.
I mean, same as our school, but
Oh,
we're
yeah.
secondary college.
So then, yeah, I was also a college ambassador in year 10. Basically, that's more so like getting involved in like, obviously we're representing our school, but also like representing our school in like events where the public comes in. So we might have like homeroom or / learner mentor like conferences or like subject conferences where it's like a 10 to 15 minute like time allotment / allocation where students meet with their teachers, or also their parents meet with the teachers as well to support the child in their learning. And we do that every term. So every term when we would have those, I would be there to sort of like guide parents to where they need to go, because obviously the conferences would happen in different rooms and whatnot. And yeah, and I was also a learner mentor executive. So obviously each year level or each home group has a learner mentor representative in their year level. But then there's also a very sort of like special role that we have called the learner mentor executive that I took on in year 10. Essentially what that is out of all the learner mentor reps in a year level, 1 or 2, I think it's 2, gets chosen to sort of be like an executive. And essentially what they do is they attend these things called our student leadership forums. And essentially what they do is they work under our like well-being student leadership executive, and they sort of like, they're directly involved, or they're directly responsible for like bringing like the concerns and issues that affect students' well-being, and then like bring them to like the front of like the staff, and like the staff leadership team. Because at those forums, we present our ideas or pitches. We call them proposals. So basically, so students are given the opportunity to like bring up different or like prepare and like organize like different events, clubs, like initiatives, programs at the college. And that whole forum is where like the student leaders who are in charge of like those different proposals, they present to not only the other student leaders, but they also present to like staff leadership as well. So I was there, and I also did that in year 9 as well with my chess competition and my hums quiz, and they were successful. And yeah, so that was year 10. And I guess also in year 10 during the student leadership forum, I know this is a lot to take in, because I just do a lot. We have this club called the Eco Committee, basically a sustainability club. And in year 10, we decided as a club to propose at the student leadership forum garden events to have at our school. And that was mainly to increase the biodiversity at our school or at the college. And that was when I was in year 10. But then in year 11, so last year, we actually decided to expand not only just like how many garden events we would have. So we added an additional 3 last year, but we also expanded like the different like opportunities and ways which we could use the garden beds as well. So we ended up actually growing like vegetables and fruits, and we donated that to a local food security shelter in our local community. So that was one of the proposals. And then one of the other proposals was, I wasn't exactly like too involved with this, but in year 8, I organized this like small fundraiser, haircut fundraiser in my homeroom / learner mentor. And obviously the world's greatest shave, when I was in year 10, obviously that like the skills that I had in organizing that fundraiser in year 8, they would have transferred greatly with me helping the team that was involved in actually organizing the world's greatest shave. So I was on board. But yeah, I also sort of like semi-proposed that as well. But again, it wasn't initially my idea. I'm not going to take the credit for it. I'll take it. We have campus captains at each of our campuses. The junior boys campus captains, when I was in year 10, can take the credit for that. And then obviously leading up to last year I was a faith and mission captain. So again, sort of very, very different roles. So again, in year 9, that's like a formal like role that I had to like get through an application form, like a really, really formal application form with like interviews. I was humanities, but then last year I was a faith and mission captain. So faith and mission at the college, it sort of changed this year. A certain teacher can speak about that if he's on the podcast listening to this. But essentially back then when I was, last year when I was year 11, faith and mission sort of stood for 2 things. They weren't separate, but they were sort of conjoined. So the faith of the college, obviously like we're a Catholic school. So like our Catholic ethos and identity, I was sort of like not in charge, but like I was sort of like, I guess like responsible for like...
In a position.
Yeah, I was in a position where I would like represent the faith and mission of the college and like sort of like expand it as well. And then also the mission part is sort of like, it's sort of in the name, like the mission of like where the college is going and like what the college actually wants to do and represent, etc. So that was one of my roles. And that was probably like last year, that was probably where I excelled the most in my like roles and responsibilities of being a faith and mission captain, like in like that specific area. So I did about 3 proposals last year, which was a lot. It wasn't too bad, but again, like I'm I don't think a lot of people know this, but I had to pull an all-nighter to get all 3 of those proposals through because I was presenting them at one forum. Usually it's only about 1, maybe 2 proposals that you will be presenting at a forum. But obviously last year things happened and I ended up presenting 3 at the forum, which again, like all 3 of those proposals that I had, they were part of the faith and mission like area, so social justice / sustainability. But again, it was a lot. Again, I know I'm sort of like dragging this on, but just to sum up, one of the proposals was having a welcome to country and smoking ceremony at our college. And some of the few reasons why we decided that was a good idea. For context, we wanted to have that welcome to country and smoking ceremony at one of our annual masses, because again, we're a Catholic school, we celebrate mass in the Catholic tradition. And then one of the reasons why we were going to plan to have that basically on that day where we would have that annual mass was because we found that like in the community through like general discussions was that I guess like our like deep connection to our local like Torres Strait Islander and like First Nations and like Aboriginal like local elders and communities was there, but it was more so there in a capacity where it wasn't like being shown, it was more so being told. So and we decided that was a good idea and we partnered with this organization, I can't remember the name, but we partnered with this organization and we were able to get a welcome to country and smoking ceremony on that day of that annual mass in the middle of the year. And it was a great success. Obviously we had all the students walk through the smoke, which was again, really, really symbolic. And it showed like how, I guess like how, it showed our commitment to the reconciliation with First Nations peoples in our community. And also we had our welcome to country, which we had right before the mass started in our assembly hall. And it was really good. It was really well received by both staff and students. And I was honestly really, really proud of being a part of organizing that as well. Yeah, because like I know the importance of acknowledging and like really like going like towards reconciliation with First Nations people. I believe this year in Victoria, we signed a treaty for First Nations people, like related to First Nations people. I can't remember what it was, but I think we did, which is really, really good. And, you know, like, I guess that sort of reflects like how I respect and like how I truly like acknowledge like, you know, like that dedication to increasing the profile of First Nations peoples in our community, in my community, I should say. And then, I know, again, I said I'm dragging this out, but then my other 2 proposals were more sustainability. So again, I told you about expanding the garden beds that we had, and then also getting compost bins that would work in tandem with the garden beds. I'm not too sure if we've actually got the compost bins yet, because again, we had delays last year. But yeah, that was me last year. And then also, I guess, outside of school, I volunteer for this environmental organization called Friends of Cohort Creek. So we sort of manage the creek beds, well, not the creek beds, but we manage like the beds along the creek. Because obviously you have like a creek, like a river. Then on the side you have like the banks. Then like we're sort of like managing that as well, cleaning up rubbish, planting new trees as well. I can show you a photo and you can put it in the podcast as well. The difference that the organization, like we have about 5 to 6 different sites across the banks of Cohort Creek because it's quite a big creek. And like the transformation in like biodiversity, like let me tell you, like it's absolutely mind blowing. Like I'll show you a photo and again, you can put this on the podcast, but it's just like the difference between like it just being like flat grassland to it just like being like this like amazing like luscious like greenery and like wildlife. It's like it's incredible. And again, like me being a part of that is just like really, really special because like especially when I was younger, I had like this really, really big backyard and we would grow like trees. We had like a lemon tree once. We had like we got like a mandarin tree as well. And there was like a lot of like we had a lot of like vegetables and whatnot. And that sort of like brought me back to my childhood because I did have to move houses as well, and I sort of like lost that. Like we still, like, at our new house, we still grow vegetables and like fruits and whatnot, but like not to the extent at which like we did at our old house. Yeah. Because at our old house, like we had a really, really big backyard. Like when I mean big, like I think our backyard was bigger than like our actual house, if I'm gonna be honest. But that's a topic for another day. But yeah, like being a part of that, like irrigation and like increasing the biodiversity of Cohort Creek was like really special for me. And I started that in year 9. And then in year 10, I also started volunteering at this like reading club to help disadvantaged young children with like their reading skills and their literacy skills. And then last year I also joined my local government area youth council. And then I also joined a bunch of youth advisory groups that are related to like mental health at like Deakin University, at Jesuit Social Services, and I also joined like this organization. Or again, this is all volunteering, by the way. This isn't. None of this is like paid work generally. More so like honorariums and reimbursements. And also joined this other organization where we were creating like this resource to teach to kids in schools about like politics and democracy. Unfortunately, I had to leave that opportunity mainly due to time commitments and whatnot. And it was in general just like that opportunity was a bit I think it was outside of my sort of like expertise. Yeah. And then this year I've joined a very, very special or unique opportunity at Vic SRC, or it stands for the Victorian Student Representative Council. So I've joined, I always forget the acronym or like the meaning, but it's called the Senior Secondary Reform Student Advisory Panel. And essentially every holidays I'll be meeting with officials from the Department of Education, and basically I'll be informing them and basically just like giving my views along with I believe 10 other students on like how VCE is delivered in Victoria, and not just VCEs, but also like different pathways such as VET, VC, VM, VPC, and like a lot of other pathways that students in Victoria can choose. And yeah, I'm just really passionate about like educational reform in Victoria because again, like, you know, we're the education state, we're the best state in Australia.
Underpay the teachers the most.
Yeah, well, that's a different discussion. I'm not too sure if we should get into that.
Yeah, not yet.
But yeah, I'm really passionate about education, and like even in general, just like in like my other volunteering like commitments as well. Like there's always that one small aspect of education, and that's one of the main reasons why I have joined those opportunities as well, because I really do believe in the power of education to change people's lives. And I'll probably get into this in some of the other questions that you have prepared. But I think education really changed my life, more so in high school. And I really do think that it can change other people's lives. And that's one of the main reasons why I pretty much did start volunteering all the way back in year 9. And that's where I am now, one of the college captains at my school. I know that was a lot, but I'm sure you can.
Yeah, about the college captain, I'm not sure how much different your system versus our system, but for becoming the college captain itself, what were the stages and what was the process on how a college captain gets chosen? Because there's usually multiple applicants.
Yeah, definitely multiple applicants. Last year was really surprising. Last year we had probably the most interest in student leadership, not just like in the seniors, but also in like the 2 junior campuses that we have at the college. But in general, just from a senior perspective, we had from memory, I believe like about 60 to 70 applicants. And in the past, we would have quite a number of less, like around maybe like 50 or even less. So last year it was really good to see like a lot of students putting their hand up for leadership. But in general, like the general process, and including me, for like anybody who wants to apply for formal leadership role at the college through like a nomination form. So basically we have this application form that gets sent out that has a deadline of like 2 weeks in advance, or 2 weeks in the future. And so basically that nomination form, you know what a nomination form is. So basically you choose or pick out the different captaincy roles that you want to go for, and then there will be like 3 or 4 questions on that form, and basically they'll outline why do you want to apply for this role, what do you think you will gain from this role, what are your past leadership experiences, and I can't remember the specific questions on the thing, but the general gist of what a normal nomination form for leadership is probably at your school as well. And so after that, the nomination forms, or each student who submits a nomination form, there is a shortlist that's created. And then over the weeks after that, so for the seniors, it comes out like in term 3. But then like basically all the way up until term 3, we have like interviews. So we have like different heads of learning. So, head of science, head of English, head of maths, head of drama and whatnot. So,
Oh God. Sort of. Looking at the bright side.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Maybe this is a good reminder for me to also change the second angle.
Yeah, and then this.
So,
Yeah, it's
Alright.
yeah. Okay, we're back.
We're back.
As I was saying, okay, the cameras and everything fell down because of the wind. As I was saying, there will be interviews with our different heads of learning and also some of our deputy principals and like some of our directors. So at our school, we have directors for like community, mission, community services, etc. So sometimes they'll run the interviews as well. And then after the interviews in general, because like obviously like people might, or like students at our college, they might apply for multiple leadership roles, which is very, very common. One of my friends, they applied for like pretty much every single leadership role, I think, like in year 10 going into year 11.
Right.
So yeah, and so basically how like students actually get chosen is through like a preference list. I believe it's a preference list, but it's pretty much based on like, you know, preferential voting in Australia. So basically like at our school, we have like tiers for different student leadership roles. So for the nomination forms, they concern tier 1 and tier 2. So basically if I applied for a tier 1 leadership role, that takes priority. And then obviously like if somebody gets chosen, then the next preference would be my tier 2 leadership role. And so yeah, so then a list of like a preference. So the heads of learning or the directors might make a list of preferences for like which students they want to be chosen as captain. And so they'll have first, second, third, fourth, fifth preference and whatnot. That gets sent to our student leadership person at our college. And then they sort of work through the data. And I believe they have the final say in terms of like first preference. And then like obviously if somebody doesn't get their first preference, they'll be considered for the second preference. You know, it cascades until all the leadership roles are filled. We don't do any speeches for college captains as well.
No speeches?
Yeah, so we don't do any speeches. We just have like an interview with our principal and one of our other high-ranking leadership people. He knows who he is. And then in general, with the nomination process, there's also like other things to consider as well. So in terms of like actually choosing a student, teachers and like other people take into account academic records, so you know, grades and whatnot, behavior record. We have this point system at our school. It's also based off of like First Nations things, First Nations like principles, or like First Nations like ideas as well. It's called the WA Award system, and it's basically just a point system where you get a badge, so bronze, silver, and gold, for basically participating in the school, and it encourages participation in our school. But it also, like, again, it links back to, you know, one of my proposals for the Welcome to Country and smoking ceremony, you know, raising the profile of First Nations stories in our community as well. So the WA, I believe the WA Award is a crow, and it's a part of Aboriginal Dreamtime. Yeah, I think it's a very, very sacred like totem or like moiety for the Aboriginal people. And so, yeah, we consider that in the nomination process as well. You know, how many points somebody has, how they're tracking in terms of like how many points they need to get silver or gold or whatnot. Academic record, behavior, WA Award, teacher endorsement forms as well. It's not an endorsement form, but like teachers also get to like put their say into like who they want to be as a student leader. I think that's in general, not for like any specific like leadership role, but more so in general. We also have a student support survey. The student support survey, it's not, again, like the student support survey, it's not a be or end all. Like just because a student gets like the most votes in like that form doesn't mean they'll get this leadership role. It's more so a student indication of, this, like a staff member who's reviewing the form, the student indication of support survey form, they might see like, I see this student has a lot of endorsements from a lot of students. That means, or that should mean that they should like the students in their grade should actually like be supportive of like them being in a leadership role. But again, like it's not the be all end all because there are so many other factors to consider as well. Definitely. So yeah, those are those factors. And yeah, I believe there's also a lot of other factors, but those are sort of like the main ones that sort of like basically dictate somebody getting a leadership role, and also the interview. And me applying for the role of of college captain as well, it was no different from like when I applied for my faith and mission captain role. I still got an interview, but again, this time around I was getting interviewed by the principal rather than, you know, like head of learning or something. But I guess what was different was like the types of questions as well that they were asking. The questions that they were asking weren't focused on like a specific like learning area or like part of the college. They were more general. Yeah, but obviously we had questions such as like, why do you want the role of college captain? What do you think you will bring to the table and whatnot? But then there was also more personal questions that were related to like me as like a student leader as well. or just like in general, like a student at the college. I won't go too into depth because I don't want to, you know, give somebody who's currently in year 11 an unfair advantage to become a college captain next year. But like, a lot of the questions were very, very unique and different from like what I've been asked in other interviews in the past. And I got chosen, and yeah. And I guess I'll also speak on like me getting chosen as well. It was a bit surreal, I think. Because like I think a lot of people knew, like, you know, I got good grades. Like I was always involved in the community. I had leadership roles inside of school and also outside of school ever since like year 8/year 9. And I guess like during the nomination process as well, like I tried to have this mindset of, oh, just because I've done all this and like it's not nobody, but like people, I haven't like sort of heard anybody in my like year level come close to sort of matching like my sort of like caliber in a sense. Yeah. But like again, like I really didn't want to have that mentality of like, oh, just because I'm the only one that's doing this or like has this, you know, like impressive catalog of accolades doesn't mean that like I'll definitely get the role. Like I was still trying to be humble in the process, and I think that's sort of what drove me through to not only just like applying for the leadership role college captain, but also just like the whole nomination process as a whole. Because initially I didn't actually plan on applying for the role of school captain or college captain, but I think what changed my mind was like just the sheer support of people, not just like in my year level, but also other year levels. Like they saw me as, you know, a good candidate for college captain. And again, like going back to the, you know, the idea of like the student support survey, like sort of leading off of that, like in the end, like if you don't have any buy-in, or in the end, if people, like, especially the students who you're serving as a student leader or as the college captain, if you're not catering to their needs or if you're not willing to listen to them, then why are you in the role? So yeah, I really took that into account, and eventually I sort of like convinced myself with like the comments that were being made about me becoming college captain, or like people wanted me to be college captain, and that sort of cascaded into me applying for the role. And yeah, then as I said, I got the role. It was a bit surreal, and yeah. And obviously, as I mentioned, like I was trying to be extremely humble in the process as well, because again, not everybody has the time to, you know, do all these volunteering commitments, and again, just in general, have the courage to be college captain as well. And for those of you who did apply for college captain at my school but didn't get it, I do admire your hard work and dedication, even though you didn't get the role or you didn't get the role that you wanted. I still do admire, again, like your courage and your effort, because as my principal said, it does take great courage to just in general apply for any leadership role. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, since you are currently college captain, how does your kind of schedule look in terms of the sheer amount of work or the kind of commitments you now have as college captain? And on like a weekly calendar basis, how often do you do stuff for the school in your role?
Well, I think I should start by pointing out that I always did, my calendar was always filled every single week.
Yeah.
Not just like outside of school, but also inside of school, because again, I was part of a lot of clubs. But I would say, because like also like obviously I told you I had numerous other leadership roles that, if I'm going to be honest, like in some ways it sort of touched on like bits and like responsibilities of being a college captain. But in general, I think this year, like I honestly expected to be like a lot more like every single week for like my college captain like responsibilities. But I would say there actually isn't. There is still a lot, but like I would say like in general, especially this year, like this year at my school we've had, not to reveal too much, but we've had a lot of like changes in our leadership structure and whatnot, especially from staff and students for our leadership teams. So like really like the responsibility of, and like in general, just like accountability for like my responsibilities and like taking my responsibilities seriously have really been up to me, and also my co-captain as well. If you're watching this, hi Glenn. And also like my college vice captains, my 4 college vice captains that sort of I work with as well. Hey guys. And really like, especially like in this role, I feel like that I have, with all my leadership experience that I've built up over the years in school and outside of school, I feel like I have pretty much an innate responsibility to really like lead. Like obviously that's a responsibility of leading like all my student leaders, but like I think with my experience, instead of me like harboring or like, in other words, like gatekeeping my experience, I really want to like turn my experience into like sort of like guidance for other student leaders, and you know, maybe like potential future college captains at my school as well, who are currently in like their junior years, or maybe they might be in like year 10 or year 11. And in general, just like having basically that responsibility of having that responsibility of duties and roles as college captain in terms of like executing those roles and responsibilities. It's more so up to us, because again, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We can't just have staff members holding us accountable, because again, they're busy, and we sort of had to keep ourselves busy by keeping ourselves accountable. So whether that be meetings, don't even get me started on meetings with other student leaders and other staff members. We have to organize, like so far this year, we've had to organize them ourselves, coming up with like proposals. I told you about proposals, initiatives and events and like programs that we want to implement into the college. That's pretty much all on us. And yeah, so like, and the thing is with those meetings is, as I told you, like we sort of had to basically schedule those with like ourselves. They're not every week. But that doesn't mean like there won't be like any during a week. Like there might be some weeks where there's only like one, but then like I remember there was this one week, like in total I had like, I don't know, like 10 different meetings, which included again like leadership meetings with like different learning areas, but also like my different meetings for like clubs, different or like future like college events, debating, yeah. And it's really tough because this year I wanted to like get so many initiatives out the door, but I'm starting to realize that I won't be able to, and that's the reality. And I had to accept that this year, because in the past, like especially last year, like I was able to get 3 proposals done, which again, like I was really proud of, and I had the time for it. But this year I don't, because again, there's no next year, because I'm year 12 this year. So that's really tough. So I think this year what I've started to focus on is like more like small, sort of like grassroots initiatives that don't really require big planning. So this year I've decided to sort of help motivate and like, I guess like incentivize like the year 7s and such year 8s in like getting into public speaking and leadership roles. So that will include like them writing a report and presenting at their different year 7 year level assemblies, supporting them in actually making those speeches, supporting them in like how to properly articulate themselves in public speaking. And I've also got other mini projects such as giving or trying to get more responsibilities for our college ambassadors that we have at the college, and really having them represent the college, not just like after school, but also like in school as well. Because again, like my principal, he put this in a really succinct way. People see you when you least expect it. Yeah, people see you when you least expect it, and especially when it comes to representing your college, especially outside of school, or representing your school, or representing like your portfolio, or like your leadership role, or like your youth group or whatnot. That really sticks out, and that really stuck out to me, because that really stuck out to me. That's something that I really wanted to sort of get across with our college ambassadors, because again, like they think, well, in general, like the general expectation for them is, you represent the school during school events outside of school, such as the, leading families to where they need to go during subjects such LM conferences. So yeah, so leading them in those and whatnot. But again, like there's more responsibility in that.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's nothing that I haven't come across in the past. Like I think, especially last year, like last year was like a wild year for me. Like
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of free time in general, just like with commitments with school, with everything else. It was just, especially with it being my first year of VC, like I think I underestimated like how big VC was. And I think that sort of cascaded into like me sort of like basically having no time. But this year I have like more time. I've sort of like organized myself a bit more. Yeah. And even with the roles and responsibilities of college captain as well, or being a college captain, I should say, I've been able to manage it quite well.
That's good. With the like initiatives, you can have so many ideas, great ideas.
Definitely.
Amazing ideas. Like when I was like running for like school captain, I kept having these ideas just pop in. I'd write them down, like make a list. But then when it comes to actually committing to like executing them, you find out later how slow the process could be and how difficult and time consuming, or, you got to get other schools on board if you're organizing a tournament for this certain, like a chess tournament between schools. So then you have to put in all the work for that, and then also trying to balance all the other commitments of a captain, and then get some more ideas. And because you want to be the voice of like the students, you're trying to go up to students, and every time they give you an idea, you write it down, add it to the list, and it's like an endless list that, you get an idea a day and you can only execute one a month. if that.
Yeah,
Because they can
definitely.
be big ideas.
I think that's a problem at pretty much every single school. Like even schools where like their student leadership, I guess culture is like really ingrained into like their daily life and like I guess like the culture of like what students do. And I do agree with you, like it does take quite a long time. And I don't think that's at the fault of anybody. Again, like when it comes to two words, child safety, like especially when it comes to child safety, I always take that into consideration and I always when I'm coming up with a new idea, I always know, like, okay, child safety, like this is going to be one thing where I'm going to have to really take it into consideration and really just like convince like the staff and students that, oh, this, like, even though there is like potential like risk and concerns when it comes to child safety in creating this event or initiative, here are the ways that we are going to mitigate, I guess, threats to child safety and whatnot. And yeah, that does like balloon and like drag out the entire process, even just for one initiative. It's just something that we have to come up. We just have to like deal with, I guess. Yeah.
And also getting like the leadership coordinators and other people in the school involved.
Definitely,
Or like
that is
on board with your idea, because they might think it sounds good, but then you have to really work with them to really.
I guess like going back to what you said on your first point or comment, I do agree with like you have so many ideas, but their execution and like their ability to actually become like real and be executed to the best ability of like the students and the staff leaders involved, there's a lot of pre-thinking that's involved. And what I've learned over the years of doing like proposals and initiatives and programs and trying to run all of these initiatives is that you have to come up with an entire idea that's pretty much thought of like every single feature and aspect of the idea. You have to think about it like really deeply and thoroughly before you actually like go to present it to staff or student leadership. And I think that's what's, and that's like, that can be like a bit demoralizing because like at our school we have to actually like write up what our idea is for the proposal, and that especially for a student who is like, for a student who really wants to get this idea and they truly believe that this idea is like, the best and like it can be executed perfectly, and they write, I don't know, like 1,000 or 1,500 words. In the past, I've written like more, by the way. But then it comes, and then like staff or like students come to this consensus or agreement that, oh, there's this one aspect or like there's a few aspects of the idea that basically mean that we can't actually execute the idea. And that can be like really like, not demoralizing, but like it can like really put some student leaders down. And I really do feel for them. But again, it's just, And what was your other point that you made? No, I forgot.
Was you get so many ideas faster than you can even like get them like implemented or executed, and then you also have to get the leadership coordinators on board and the people responsible for certain ideas or just changing different parts of the school, because there might be someone responsible for social media, someone responsible for this sport or something else. And if they get them on board, at the same time they have busy schedules, so it's kind of up to you to run everything, but you have to get them to give you the thumbs up and the A-OK to run.
And it's something that I've really struggled with, and some other student leaders at my school, well, a few student leaders at my school have struggled with as well, is the fact that if you really want to get an idea forward or you want to push an idea through and have it, and not just like have it be successful, because you don't know if it's going to be successful, but in general, just like trying to actually come up with an idea and like really just develop it, you have to be on board with the idea and basically be like really like thinking about it and be active in it. Basically like every single week. Like you have to keep up with communication. You have to follow with different students, leaders, and different staff leaders and different staff members who might be involved with the initiative every single week, whether that be through emails. But again, like they might not be, like there might be some delays and they might be away from the computer. So like me and a few student leaders have found it really hard to just like communicate with staff, because again, like they're busy and whatnot, and also like other students, like they're also busy as well. Again, like they have also they have like other motivations and whatnot. And so if, again, like basically what I'm trying to say is like at my school and probably at your school, if you really want to get an idea through, you have to be on it 24/7, and it might come to the case where you'll have to sacrifice some of your lunch times to just speak with a staff member or speak with a student leader in person, which I've done so many times because there have been so many times in the past where I know that this is the only way that if I want to get an idea through, this is the only way. I have to meet with and just talk with staff members and student leaders every single lunchtime or every single snack just to just get their thoughts and opinions. And it is tough. It is tough. And I think that's what that's done for me in terms of like my leadership style is I've been quite independent in my leadership style because again, like I would have so many ideas that I want to get through. And basically the only way that I've been able to do that in the past, and also I guess like this year as well, is if I've basically, I don't want to do this, but like in my goal and in my passion for leadership, student leadership, and like public speaking and like whatnot, and like all those other different aspects, if I really do want to get this idea through, I need to basically take it upon myself, because there's a point at which you involve so many staff leaders and so many student leaders to the point where communication is just like all over the place and it's just a mess. And sometimes it's easier to just do it by yourself or like do it with a small contingency of student leaders and staff members, because again, like it's easier to like sort of like get their thoughts on this and like easier to get their feedback on this rather than getting feedback and thoughts from a whole pool or a whole group of people. And that's really bad because again, like we're humans, we're social beings. And especially in my school, we emphasize a lot of, especially within student leadership, we emphasize a lot of like working with other student leaders. But again, like the process, the inevitable process that I've had to go through, that's sort of like trained my brain into like saying, okay, the only way for me, or in general, for student leaders to actually like get their idea through is if they work independently, because it's more efficient that way. And yeah, and like this year I've tried to like branch out and like really just like be less independent, especially when it comes to like getting initiatives up. Because I have obviously my other college captain, my co-captain, and my 4 college vice captains. I've been trying to actively work with them. But yeah, it's hard because again, like I've had this leadership style of like, you know, independency and whatnot for like a number of years, ever since year 8/year 9. And, you know, like, again, like it's a leadership style. So like, it's very hard to change. But again, like I am trying to make that effort to, you know, get more student leaders involved and yeah. It's tough, but yeah, it's what I got to do. That's what I got to do.
Yeah. It's also when you're working with so many different people, you also have to somewhat be semi-people please, or you have, I guess also one way, if you had like a lot of really good ideas and you might not be able to get them done this year because of all the other commitments of the role and also of ideas you're already working towards, you could kind of make online whiteboards where you kind of have all the ideas around and then people can submit other ideas as well. And I guess forward it towards all the other future leaders or captains, and maybe they can, you know, continue the legacy of the ideas.
That is a good suggestion, but again, I think I talked to you about this during NSCC when we were at Canberra. I don't think this is just the culture of my school. This is just like, this probably happens at every school.
High school, I guess.
Yeah, it's just high school because like, you know, we're still kids, right? I think like the buy-in of, you know, student leaders, future student leaders, continuing ideas or like just like developing ideas from the previous year's student leadership team, very, very unlikely, because again, it's not their ideas, it's not their thinking, it's not their thoughts and views and opinions of, you know, oh, this particular idea would be good. It's, again, like the previous year's student leadership team. So I just don't think it'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because I do understand that. And especially when it comes to like an idea that's actually really good and like the staff and the students have like agreed that it's a really good idea and like, you know, it's been approved by staff leadership, but there's just not enough time to execute it. And so like those, I feel really bad for the students who really want to get those ideas up, but they end up just running out of time because again, it's the end of the year, everybody's tired, etc. It's tough. It's really tough. It's
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Also, when we were on the NSCC and I saw that you were getting also like people who had ideas, they were like emailing you their ideas and stuff. And I was wondering about how often or how many students email you as like school captain their ideas for an addition to the school or some small project to be done.
The thing is, like, in general, we don't, well, I think it's just a cultural thing in our school. Especially for the college captains, we don't really like get emails for like ideas. And I'm not too sure if I'm able to say this because again, like the staff member who was supposed to review my responses to the questions that you're asking me right now, they haven't gotten back to me. But again, if there's any trouble with this, you can edit it out. We really don't really get much. Yeah, as I said, it's a cultural thing. We don't really get much emails from students about ideas that they want. In general, like I think students do have ideas. It's just that they don't want to email it and like to us or like any other student leader, but also just like it's more of a cultural thing where they just don't want to email it because maybe they want to do it themselves in the future. And I guess in general, that's, as I said, like it's a cultural thing. It doesn't really amount to anything. Like they might just quote unquote gatekeep their ideas, which again, like it's good that they want to do it themselves, but they could still be involved in the process of developing that idea, even if they're not a student leader and they still have that idea. And again, with these ideas, like with what I told you about proposals, they're only limited to student leaders who are successful in getting a leadership role through our nomination form. And so, and it's very, very unlikely that students will actually again, as I said, it's very, very unlikely that they'll actually send their ideas or share their ideas to the student leaders who are involved in like the proposal or the ability to make proposals. And like that email that I think I showed you from a student while we were in Canberra at the NSCC, that was more so a year 12 idea and it wasn't really a proposal. And if I'm going to be honest, like that student who emailed me, that's probably like the only time in my 6 years of being at the school that I've actually ever gotten an email from a student about an idea.
Yeah.
Even if the idea that I showed you wasn't about, getting a proposal up and making an idea into a proposal, I think it just reflects like
the rarity of it.
Yeah, the rarity, but also just like students just not wanting to say their ideas.
Yeah.
Like, I think how I sum it up is like, we have so many ideas at our school, and I'm sure so many other schools have, like their students have so many ideas, but they just like, when it comes to actually putting them into action and executing them, we sort of stay quiet a bit. And I don't think it's their fault. Again, like it just depends on like, student leadership structure, getting the resources to actually develop those ideas into proposals, which staff members to actually talk to, which student leaders to talk to, like all these things sort of, they add up. And I'm not particularly saying that it happens at my school, but because again, like our school has a fairly good, I must say, I guess like student leadership system when it comes to like making student ideas into like actual initiatives to perform and execute at our school. But
yeah, because I also think it goes back down to like a more cultural thing and also like fear thing where, let's say, when people have an idea for a certain business or product, they don't want to say it out loud because it could get stolen. Someone could take all the credit, they could start it up, and then all of a sudden they've taken the market and you've lost out. Or they might be fearful that they build an idea, it gets shut down because sometimes people shut down other people's ideas because they don't see through them or they don't take the time to really dissect them or understand them better. Sometimes people see an idea and they just shut it down saying, oh no, that's a bad idea. And that's another fear thing because people don't like rejection. And
yeah, I do agree. That's a good analogy, like the business thing. That happens like in general with my conversations with just like students who don't have a leadership role and also students who also have a leadership role or just have a leadership role in general. I've spoken to them and that's sort of like a really big occurrence is that like they have ideas, but like they don't want to execute and they don't want to actually like potentially make that idea into proposal, like actually work towards having the idea be presented to like staff and students because they're fearful of not just rejection, but also being judged for an idea. And I think this is coming from me as well, because again, I've done so many like leadership stuff and proposals at the college. I think I've done like 8 in total across ever since like year 9. I tell my student lead, I tell the student leaders like, if you want any advice on your ideas or wanting to develop your ideas, just ask me for advice. But I think that's one of the problems is they know I have so much experience and they're afraid that one, I'll just shoot down their idea, and number two, I'll just say outright, oh, sorry, I don't think your idea will work because of this or because of that. And that's probably one of the main factors as to, you know, getting these initiatives up. And and I don't think it's also from me as well. It also like me like saying like if they're like them getting scared of me giving them advice on their idea as well. But again, it's just like the culture of like this fear of like rejection and like in general, just like humiliating yourself as well. Because at our student leadership forums where proposals are presented, the staff leadership actually like, because like they're more experienced in terms of like child safety practices, how to actually like, because like they're in charge of the school, right?
Yeah.
So they're more versed in child safety policies, other policies, and like these other policies that they had to line up with. And so they usually not shoot down ideas, but they usually, when it comes to like the student leaders hearing feedback from the staff leadership about their idea, I think they're fearful of that because they don't want to like
The pushback and the disputes or rebuttals.
Yeah, like they don't want to like be put into this position of embarrassment. But if I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's a position of embarrassment. Like again, like you're getting feedback on your idea from people who will most likely support your idea if you amend certain things. And yeah, they're just fearful of that. Like especially when I was starting out in year 9, I was quite a bit fearful of like actually, you know, getting up on the lectern and actually speaking about my idea or my ideas, I should say. And like the main reason was one, getting like frowns from like student leaders about my idea, but also like the staff leadership. Like when the staff leadership actually say like potential like issues or maybe like points of amendment for like a proposal or idea at my school, again, like it's in front of a group of like all of our student leaders, right? And those same group of student leaders, in general, like we interact with them on a daily basis. So like after, they might like, I don't know, start like judging you, or like they might start judging me for like one of my ideas or certain aspects of my ideas. And yeah, it's a cultural thing that is not limited to my school. It's just like,
maybe a wider society thing.
yeah,
as well.
it's a wider society thing because like, again, like in general, people judge you like no matter what you do. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a positive thing as well. It's in our human nature as well. And so that process of judging also links back to this idea of getting proposals through, getting initiatives through and whatnot. And in terms of like, I guess like a solution as well, there's no real solution, I think. Again, it's part of human nature. Like so long as like we're humans, I think it's just gonna keep on going.
Yeah.
And
I guess the only way you can make it a little bit better is by making people more comfortable with sharing ideas, and that way you can do it by, I don't know if I would say normalizing, but basically maybe having a panel where the leadership organizers, like the coordinators, they like tell everyone to like come up with an idea or like share what ideas they might have on their mind, and then making it normal, and like instead of being a bit more aggressive on the disputes or basically saying the cons of the idea like up front as much, maybe making it a bit more comfortable for the people sharing it, and like it maybe while people take turns in front of everyone, like seeing how normal it is to have ideas and, you know, offering solutions around their cons. Or basically maybe the leadership could also help the leaders by saying, these are cons around child safety policy or around this, how could you improve this? And when the leader doesn't have an answer, they could help by saying, well, what if you do this, or what if you add this? With the organizing between other schools for a certain tournament, they can ask you, hey, how are you going to get the other schools on board? And if the leader doesn't have an idea around it, like they might be like, I don't know about that yet. The leadership person could be like, from their experience, they could say, offer a solution around that problem and ask the leader for their kind of thoughts around that, to kind of make it more of a comfortable environment for people. Kind of in a way how we had the soapboxes and all our speeches, like we had a bunch of people taking turns back to back saying their speeches, and all the support we kept getting, it made people more comfortable to the idea to stand up and start sharing their thoughts on changing Section 53.
I do agree that's, I guess, one way, making it more like comfortable and I guess like, and like vibe, and like making the whole process more like inviting for student leaders, like in terms of just like public speaking and like presenting as well. And I think that's reflective, well, not reflective, but I think that comes across more in like junior years for the junior captains. Again, because like, I think, especially at my school, the general like not atmosphere, but like the general attitude is that the senior student leaders should not do all the work, but like they should like step up when they should always step up first before the junior captains. And I do agree that there should be more, I guess, like processes that should be put into place to make it more comfortable for student leaders to present. And the thing about what you were saying about having like the feedback, the pros and cons being, the cons more specifically being anonymous. At our school, it's actually, I think it's actually good that the cons are sort of said out loud, because again, like when the student leaders who aren't presenting hear it, they can give their own thoughts and opinions on that as well, because they can also like offer their own solutions and like their own thoughts, like their own solutions and their own possible fixes for the potential con or the potential risk that staff leadership have pointed out. And then the student leaders who are presenting their proposal, they can take that on board instead of them being the only ones who had to, think of the solution to the potential issue with the idea as well. Yeah.
And sorry, what I meant more with cons, rather than being like anonymous, I meant like kind of soften down the blow when they're like giving it to the person. Like instead of them being kind of grilled in front of everyone, like maybe have the leader person, while they say it, also offer an idea for potential solution. So it seems like it's not like a be all end all. Like they said, okay, you guys didn't really cover, this policy or procedure, but maybe these are some ideas that could work, and then they could build off that, rather than just saying like that's not really quite suitable for our child safety policy yet with the current structure you've set out.
I think they do, because again, like the last forum or the last meeting like that I had was term 2 of last year.
Yeah.
And they do that, but I do agree, like when it comes to like giving student leaders when they're presenting confidence, maybe we could work on that. But it's again, like if any staff member at my school is watching this, maybe you can, I don't know, fix that up or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like just like take that into consideration or something. Yeah.
Or maybe have like some kind of icebreaker that gets people comfortable with being a bit uncomfortable, or get people to like understand, hey, it's okay to not have the right answers all the time, or it's okay to not sound perfect.
Yeah.
It's okay to not think things fully through, but still present them.
I guess on that, what you said about not thinking things through, we have to think things through when it comes to, because it has to be a complete proposal where you've talked to student leaders, you've fleshed out your entire idea and whatnot. What was I going to say?
But maybe not like think that you have to be a perfectionist on the idea, or else you can't share it.
I think, I know what I'm going to say. I do agree with that idea, but one of the main concerns that I have with that idea right now, as I'm thinking, is time. Because those like meetings where students present their ideas, they're only once a term. And obviously, because it is to give student leaders time to actually, develop their idea and whatnot. But also in general, in those like sessions, there's only like an hour to 70 minutes for that session. And there's basically no time to be wasted, if I'm going to be honest. And and in general, there's no time for it to be extended either, because it actually happens during like times where there's basically the most minimal disruption to student learning. Like the chances of like having like a meeting happen during class is it's basically impossible.
Yeah.
Because again, we don't want it to affect student well-being and student learning. So it will usually only occur maybe after school, or during like, I don't know, a study period, or maybe during homeroom as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess maybe maybe there could be like a group chat or online thing where people submit video proposals of the idea. In the free time, the leadership people might offer feedback, or other leaders, while they are on the chat, they could see, oh, here's my reply, and they can reply like what they think about the idea and the pros and cons, and it can become, I guess, a big thing in a way, or like an online chat where people submit video ideas for their proposals, and then people can get live feedback as well, but in their free time when it's convenient.
I think students could just, at that point, just like ask for feedback from other student leaders.
Yeah.
But also like in general, like I think what you've just said on like having it digital and having it a video, I think it's more impactful to have it in person.
Definitely.
Because when you're in person, you're able to just like articulate your concerns, your thoughts and opinions on an idea and like just converse in person. And I feel it's more, it's more impactful. And I just prefer it to be that way because again, I get to, you know, meet the other student leaders and staff leadership team members in person and chat with them as well. Yeah, because like I think when it comes to like the atmosphere environment, I feel like there's more of like a lively atmosphere and environment when you're meeting in person rather than online. Because like online, it's just sort of like, yeah, it's just not the same.
And you can also feel the tone and like the passion people have towards what they're
definitely,
saying.
definitely. Yeah. Also like articulation as well. I feel like when it comes to like actually like understanding and hearing what students and staff members are saying, I feel like coming off the back of COVID and like online learning as well. Yeah, I found that during those like years, like I found it quite hard to understand some people. Whereas, you know, if you're doing anything in person, you know, it's way easier to just like hear them, know what they're saying and just like, you know, respond to their questions quickly rather than just saying, oh, hold on, could you like, you know, repeat that? No, it's just easier.
Yeah. And you don't have like the technical difficulties where they start glitching on the screen.
Definitely.
Yeah. What are the different cultures that are in your families and what sorts of countries do some originate or have cultures from?
So I'm mixed Asian. I'm still Asian, but I'm like a mix. I'm not like 100% one or something. So I'm basically half Chinese and half Viet. And just like in general, like there's probably a bit of like, you know, like I don't know, like Thai or something, like Indonesian or something. I don't know. But those are sort of like the general like cultures that I'm a part of. So my dad is my Vietnamese side. He's my Vietnamese half. So he was born in North Vietnam. And he was in North Vietnam during the height of, you know, the Vietnam War. And so that's pretty much one of the reasons why he migrated here was, you know, to get a better life, to get away from, you know, the conflicts, you know, with the Viet Cong in the north and the capitalist south and whatnot. And yeah, just in general, just to get away from the conflict and the politics side of that. It was just, I'm sure you know about the Vietnam War, it was a complete mess. And so yeah, his family migrated here. He actually migrated to Sydney first. That's why my middle name is actually Sydney, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah, I think, yeah. My middle name actually has like other words in it, but like in general, just one of my middle names is Sydney. So Minh Sydney Trin. And then he was there for about, I don't know, maybe at least 20, 25 years before moving here to Melbourne. He lived in Sydney, he lives in like Cabramatta, which is like further out. I think it's like an hour 30 train ride from like the Sydney CBD. And that's where sort of like all like the Vietnamese who migrated because of the Vietnam War, that's sort of where they stayed. And I actually went to Sydney earlier this year and actually went to Cabramatta and actually visited one of the restaurants that my dad had gone to all those years back when he migrated here, which is really, really nice. So yeah, that was pretty heartwarming. And yeah, and also I still do have like cousins and like aunties and uncles in Sydney, but like in terms of like my dad's family, like they're all in here, like they're all in Victoria and whatnot. And then in terms of my mum, so my mum's my Chinese side-ish. My mum was actually born in Cambodia. So yeah, she was born in Cambodia. But then when she was, I think, 14, 15, she actually moved here to Australia. She moved to Melbourne first, so she was always going to be in Melbourne. And then I believe when she was still in Cambodia, she also learned to speak Chinese and she also spoke Vietnamese as well. And obviously she learned to speak English when she came here as well. She's multilingual. And so yeah, she settled ironically, she settled in the east side first, so like around this area. But then she actually decided to move to the west side.
Yeah.
You know, if she didn't move and, you know, I grew up in the east, probably would have been a very, very different life. I probably wouldn't be the person I was today. So I think I'm very, very grateful that she did move here.
Yeah.
But I still do have some family here, as I told you. Yeah, so she's Cambodian, but I think she's still like majority like Chinese. So that's sort of why I say she's my Chinese half. And yeah, and then obviously I told you my dad moved here and then met my mum and then, you know, got married, settled in the West. I was born. I have 3 other siblings that are all older than me. I have cousins here as well, from both sides of my family as well. And yeah, I've been growing up in this West ever since I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is who I am right now, so.
Yeah, just living it up in the West side.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And then with the current cultures, the Chinese, the Vietnamese, and maybe even Cambodian, like, how have you interacted with them or how have they played an impact or role in your family?
So when I was little, so for the first like maybe 12 to 13 years that I was alive. Okay, when I was 12 up until I was 12 to 13 years old,
Yeah.
I lived in this suburb called St Albans, and that was predominant. Yeah, so St Albans is predominantly like immigrant, like people who are immigrants or who immigrated to Australia. Like that's sort of like the
First generation.
yeah, and there's this place called St Albans like Market. It's right across from this station called St Albans, yeah, because it's in St Albans, and that entire community is Vietnamese. And so ever since I was young, I would actually go to the stores, because it's like a long like like a shopping strip. So it's like there's like two roads. So there's like one road that's going here to go that way, then there's another road going the other way, and then like on each side there's like shops. There's lines of like shops, just like yeah, and most of them are Vietnamese owned, and they've been there for probably at least like 50 years at this point. And so ever since I was little, I would go to the Vietnamese shops, banh mi, the bread roll, the dinner roll, and what,
banh mi, yeah.
I would go there, interact with my fellow Vietnamese community, and also like Chinese community. There was a few Chinese like families that I would interact with when I was younger as well. And yeah, I would pretty much I was pretty much growing up around that spot for the first like 12 to 13 years of my life. So that's sort of like the Vietnamese part of me. In terms of like my Chinese, I guess, like side, again, like there was not a real like big Chinese presence when I was growing up in St. Albans. I guess the same with Cambodian, I guess, like heritage as well. But I sort of like, yeah, so I was more connected with like my Vietnamese sort of like side of my family, so like my dad's side of my family as well, because they also live in the western suburbs as well. And yeah, but I guess like when it came to me like actually interacting with like not just like my community in St. Albans and whatnot, but also like my family, I found it really difficult because I actually don't speak, like I'm not multilingual or like bilingual. I don't speak other languages, especially at home. So I don't speak Chinese or Vietnamese and whatnot. Especially when I was younger, that had a pretty big impact on like how I was able to actually interact with my community. Like obviously I was like there and I was like, walking around like the shopping strips and whatnot. But when it came to actually like conversing in like my mother tongue or like my native language, I couldn't speak it. And sometimes I found that really hard because again, I would get like my mom and like my dad to just like, translate for me.
Yeah.
But again, like, I like this, it's not that same. It's not the same is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not the same.
And would like anyone in your groups kind of talk behind your back in like the
No,
language
probably.
in front of you?
Yeah, I think my aunties on my dad's side, because again they grew up in the West, they would sort of like frown upon it. But if I'm gonna be honest, like even like my other cousins, like I think most of them, or like a good majority of them, can't even speak their native tongue as well. So like, I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to like the family, and like the children, like not being able to like speak their mother tongue or like their native tongue. Like some can, like a very few can speak it, but again, like it's not like. Yeah. And I think. Yeah, like I think the reason why was because my mum, when she came here and like she had me and like my siblings, she didn't really focus on like putting me into like language school, like Vietnamese school and learning Vietnamese. I think she more so put my siblings into like swimming. I think when my mum had me and my siblings, I think she more so focused on giving me like an Aussie childhood experience. So like me, not me because I don't know, I was a bit of like a baby. I didn't want to do swimming, but like three of my other siblings, they all went to swimming ever since I was, I don't know, ever since I can remember honestly. Like so they would always go to they would always have like swimming lessons at our local leisure centre, and they would also do tutoring as well. I never did tutoring because I was that kind of child. So they would go to tutor every Saturday. So yeah, yeah. Well, I guess like not just like also like an Aussie experience, but also like a blend. So like again, like tutor, like typical Asian, stereotype. But I don't think my mum. I think she didn't care with like academics and grades as much as like other Vietnamese or like Asian Chinese families would. Like being really, really strict on getting full marks or whatnot. But I think she understood the importance of us getting a good education. And I'm proud of her for actually doing that as well. But yeah, and then so when it came to tutoring, that's sort of like the, I guess, Asian side of that. But then when it came to like swimming, that was sort of like the Aussie side of
Yeah.
that as well. And so like I think all my life, like now that I really reflect on it and like my childhood, I've sort of had this like real like mix of like Aussie and like Asian like experiences. Yeah, I've had a mix again because like I told you I grew up in like a predominantly Vietnamese community, but then I also like had like different like Aussie aspects that I would sort of like lean into, like like snags on the barbie at Bunnings Warehouse, yeah. And like when I was younger, I would eat like like the food that my mum would cook, but I would always like I would always prefer like Macca's or something.
Yeah, like a meat pie or
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, but I think like that mix of cultures, I think it did have a big impact on me as well, because like I do feel like I think now that I do reflect on it, like I think it's also good that I do have this sort of like connection to this like the Aussie culture as well, because again like it helped me with my friendships, especially when I started with high school as well. Like I was able to sort of like relate to a lot of people more.
fit in more as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Oh, well, not just fit in more, but also like fit in with other people that I wouldn't be able to fit in with if I didn't have that sort of like that like Aussie in me or something. Yeah, if I can call it that Aussie in me. So yeah, because I was also able to like not fit in, but like, I was able to interact and become friends with like
Connect with different people.
yeah, and just
mutual
like people of
interest.
like different cultures, not just like Asian and like
Yeah.
Vietnamese and Chinese and whatnot, but also just like like Australian, Anglo-Saxon, yeah, like just like other cultures as well. Yeah, it was really nice, and yeah, I think yeah, it really shaped me into like who I am today when it comes to like me being like support for like multiculturalism, because again like Australia is a multicultural country, and like even though people say like oh like the Aussie culture, like that's not really multiculturalism or something, like yeah, I mean like it is a culture. Like it doesn't need to be like a culture that isn't in Australia or like that isn't Australian to be a culture, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like it's good with the like I guess the Aussie aspects because mutual language English, bridging different people from different cultures. We got the mutual sports and stuff we grew up doing, or
Yeah.
mutual things we grew up watching, and like it helps bridge the differences to become like kind of we're just like a really similar in a way.
Yeah,
Versus if we like had all our separate experiences and didn't have any similarities, that would have been pretty tough to
Yeah,
connect.
definitely. And especially now that, because like, obviously I'm in high school, I go out a lot more, and I'm more prone to trying different foods, and like some of the foods that like some of my favorite foods aren't the foods that are part of like Vietnamese or Chinese culture. Like I'm proud of that as well. Like I'm proud of like me not being like limited in terms of like my interests and like my hobbies and like my food choices and whatnot, not being limited to like my Asian background, and like really just like branching out into like different backgrounds.
So I'm not sure if you quite touched on this specifically, but the Rerum Novarum Awards, I saw that you guys like got like an award
Yeah,
or
we did. Yeah.
nomination, or what was it, and like what caused you guys to get the awards?
Okay, so the Rerum Novarum, okay, it actually links back to the garden bed things that I was talking, yeah. So basically, it was an eco community thing, which is our club that we have for like sustainability at our college, at our school. So essentially it's a competition for any Catholic school in Melbourne. So in Melbourne, we have this thing called the Melbourne Archdiocese of Catholic Schools. It's basically like our governing body. In terms of like public schools, you know how like the government is pretty much in charge of you guys. Max is sort of like in charge of us. So basically any Max school was basically asked, well not asked, but like they were invited to participate in the Rerum Novarum Awards. And basically the Rerum Novarum Awards are this award that is on offer to Max schools. And basically it poses a challenge, not a challenge, but like it poses like an opportunity for students, for high school students in Max schools, and also their staff members or their supervising and leading coordinators to actually get involved in like social justice and sustainability projects at their college or at their schools. And it can range from any like social justice or sustainability project. And yeah, it's really just a chance to sort of like live out our Catholic identity. And the awards, again, like it's bronze, gold, and silver. So, that typical like tiering system of awards. And obviously it's a competition. And so, yeah, so our school, we decided to do it when I was in year 10 and also last year, which was when I was in year 11. And so we decided to propose garden beds to build at our school's main campus at the back of our at the back of one of our facilities. And so yeah, we decided to not only build that, but again, it was also a proposal. And again, it was an eco committee idea. Well, it was an idea that the eco committee all developed together. So it was all of us. There's about 50 of us in total in the club from all 3 of our campuses. And yeah, so we in the eco committee we came up with the idea. So how are we gonna make the garden beds, which we did, which we did, and we also save money, or would we have bought garden beds, which would have cost more money? And we obviously chose to make garden beds. It did cost a lot more, but it was cheaper. Again, leading into that sustainability aspect.
Cost more, but it was cheaper.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no. When it came to buying garden beds, it cost that cost more than making our own garden beds, which was cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And so I guess the point of when we were in year 10, we decided that we wanted to increase biodiversity at our school. And I guess again, linking back to First Nations, raising the profile of First Nations individuals and elders in our community, we decided to plant native or indigenous plants. Not only to increase biodiversity, but also increase the biodiversity of, again, what I just said, native plants and Aboriginal, I guess local species of plants at our in the local community, also in our school as well. And so at first we had 2 garden beds, and we ended up winning the silver award, which was 2nd place, and I believe we won $2,000, which was good. And then the following year, which was last year in year 11, we decided that we would make more garden beds. So we installed an additional 3 garden beds to the 2 that we already had. So now that we have 5 in total. And this time around, or last year, that time around, we decided as in the eco committee that we wanted to sort of link our social justice to the sustainability aspect. So what we decided to do was we decided to not only make the garden beds, but also make the garden beds for the purpose of growing vegetables such as beetroot, lettuce, cherry tomatoes and whatnot, to donate to a local food security shelter that we actually have fairly good relations with in our local community. And again, linking back to that aspect of social justice, that food security shelter actually did provide for not just vulnerable members in our local community, but it also provides for members in our own school community as well, which was really, really touching, we found. And in that food security shelter that we have in our local community, every week that runs every single week every single week, and that caters to about 100 people, I guess per week as well. And also one of the reasons why we decided to actually donate it to that specific shelter is we found that there was increasing demand for their services, because the food security shelter would get donations from food bank and all these other organizations that would give out food for those in need. But again, with the organization, and also as a volunteer, because I volunteered at that food security shelter, and I still do, and so I sort of was able to bridge that gap between the communications and the relationships. So I was sort of able to increase relations between the school, again, I guess also the eco committee and the college, with the food security shelter and the organization that runs it. We found that again, the demand was surging, but then the supply wasn't really matching up. So we decided that, okay, we can help, because by helping the local food security shelter and giving them vegetables for those in need, that people would be able to put food on their table, we will be helping members in our own local community. And so we did that, and we ended up winning silver again last year. So we doubled up on the silver reward. And we won another $2,000, I think, from memory. And and then this year, I'm not too sure what we're doing this year. This year's been a bit slow for the eco committee. Well, mainly because, again, it's just the start of the year. But I think this year we're focusing on waste management. at our college. And obviously that will become another Rerum Novarum project as well. And yeah, and I guess last year as like a faith and mission captain, like I really wanted to like not just expand, as I said before, I didn't want to expand the garden beds. I also wanted to expand like the opportunities with the garden beds. So not just like donating vegetables to this food security shelter, but also getting like other year levels involved in like just in general, just making it like having it have more uses as well. So for one of the uses, we decided to have like the year 7 junior boys like plant their own vegetables as well, as like a mindfulness like well-being thing, and that was really successful. And we also used the garden beds like area as for like a well-being space as well. And I believe we also use it for like vet classes as well, for like I think vet kitchens, like the vet for like the food technology one, yeah. Like that vet course for like
Not horticulture. Like
no. It was I can't remember the vet course name, but it's like a vet course for like students who want to go into culinary school. Can't remember the name, but
maybe some certificate in something cookery.
yeah, probably that, something like that. And so yeah, I think we've started to sort of do that as well. And yeah, I think that like over the 2 years of us like developing the garden bed, I think we've it's become a really good space for just like not just like the eco committee, but also like students who like love planting and like gardening and whatnot, and also just like in general for all students who just want to chill as well.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
I
a pretty
guess
chill space as well.
Good addition to mental health.
Yeah, definitely, especially with that thing on mental health, because I'm also big on mental health when it comes to its effects on young people. Well, the issues that affect young people's mental health, I'm really big on that. Hence, why a lot of my volunteering things do sort of center around issues that affect people's mental health. And yeah, like I think like seeing it come to life, like especially because we had our last meeting for the eco committee, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, and we had a lot of students come by, and sort of just like that was a moment where I sort of like reflected on like where we've come, because like the site that we actually used, like it was just like bare, nobody used it, but now it's just like a site of greenery and like where students can just like chill, and just just like chill and yeah.
Yeah, you kind of like have a physical image of like your efforts and like your work. Like you have a like you can see like the effort you put in. Like it's not something like online or like non-physical. Like it's tangible. It also might outlast you as well. Like when you finish school, it's still gonna be there.
It would definitely outlast me. I think we have more plans to add. Okay, I'm not too sure because again, like I just told you, eco committee's been a bit slow this year, and we're focusing on waste management. But we're thinking of adding compost bins. So like any like compost or like scrap, like food or vegetables or fruit that we get from harvesting, we can just put into there and use it to recycle, so that we can actually use it to help the plants to grow. Because again, and we're also planning, because we have a more space to actually put more garden beds as well, so we can also expand production of the amount of like vegetables and fruit that we produce to donate to the food security shelter. So yeah, there's a lot of future scope when it comes to the garden beds, and I'm glad I was a part of bringing it to life as well. Because again, as I told you, it was a student leadership proposal that I had to present to the student leadership twice. So I was really, and plus it was something that I was really passionate about as well. Because again, as I told you, at my old house when I was living, in St. Albans, we had a big backyard full of greenery, fruits, shrubs, vegetables, a lot of gardening and farming. Well, not farming, but gardening. And yeah, just again, like when I moved to my old house, I didn't really get that same experience. So like, having this in the school as like a reminder of like, my childhood and whatnot, it was really, really nice to see that I guess that reference as well, yeah.
What happened the first time you proposed?
First time, it was actually really well received. So the first time, it was when I was in year 10, when I was the learning mentor executive, so I was able to actually be there at the Student Leadership Forum. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to be there. and the proposal went quite well from memory. We didn't have much like concerns from the staff leadership or even general, just any concerns from students. So it was quite like smooth sailing. And then the second time around, it was pretty much smooth sailing as well because it's quite simple because it was just adding on from like, it was just expanding on like the project that we did in year 10, which was the same thing, the garden beds. It was just adding more. So yeah.
Yeah. The weather's actually wonderful. Like I forgot to point it out, but before, at the start of the podcast, it was a horrible
It was
weather.
torrential rain. That's just Melbourne weather, I reckon.
I guess Melbourne weather,
Melbourne weather.
Some of the other delegates that were at the NSCC, they're pretty fortunate because they just got sunshine every day. More specifically the Queenslanders,
definitely.
yeah.
No, but Queensland's like I think it's too hot for me. Like, cause like obviously like they're like near the equator, like obviously.
Closer, yeah.
So like I think like in general, like all year round, like maybe even during like winter, like it's gonna be like slightly more warmer. Yeah, but I think the Northern Territory is probably the worst because they're like at like their tip, like because like they're like the furthest towards the equator as well. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I've heard it's pretty bad.
And it's probably harder when you can't swim if the water's polluted with like tropical jellyfish and like crocodiles or that sort of stuff.
I thought that was more of a problem for the Queenslanders because they got the Great Barrier Reef.
More North Queensland, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I think Northern Territory also have similar problems as well. Because they're also like up there near the area, like it probably doesn't take much for crocodiles to swim over.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, that was a little segment like before, like we had a waterfall of rain and it was windy and everything, but now it's just sunshine. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice, yeah.
You guys are about to do another Rerum Awards?
Yeah, probably. So we're planning on doing another Rerum Novarum Award, like to like nominate our school for one. So like doing another project and whatnot, and hopefully we can win gold this time.
Yeah.
We're not sure what the actual project will be, but we know the theme that we want to do this year is around waste, like waste management at our college. I'm not too sure what the project will be, but I did mention before that we're trying to get some compost bins in to recycle some of the waste that we get from the garden beds. So that could be part of the project as well. But I think this year, especially when it comes to Rerum Novarum, we sort of want to pivot away from the garden beds. Like again, the garden beds are important, but for the past 2 years, we've been doing the garden beds. And, you know, like, because I think for the panel judges that actually do judge each of the schools' projects to, you know, make a final judgment on who gets gold, who gets bronze, who gets silver. I think it's a bit stale. So, and also it's just small opportunities to, you know, just try some new projects as well.
Now I'm interested to see what schools won the previous golds and what project did they have that got them to win gold?
I think I should be able to reveal this because I do believe it is public knowledge. Like it's on Max's website, I think. So I think in year 10 when we first had the garden beds, so the first proposal that we did, the winning school did like an op shop. It's basically like a Vinnie's, like a mini Vinnie's, like op shop in their school. So I believe students would donate like all of their old clothes. Obviously, for child safety's sake, they would wash the clothes, I would assume, and they would have that op shop open. I believe, I'm not sure when, but like I think it was quite accessible for students to just, you know, take it and So yeah, that's what I think in year 10 when we found out that they were the gold winners, like we were quite impressed. Even I was impressed. Like,
yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's an op shop like in school. Yeah, it's like
and people have tons of old stuff to give away.
Yeah, exactly. And all and I think it's easier for some people to just donate it to the school rather than you know, going to like an op shop. Maybe. Yeah. Because you know sometimes some op shops are like located further away, mainly in like shopping districts. Not shopping districts, but like where like major shopping centers are, and like obviously like some people might not live near some shopping centers. So like yeah, it was a really interesting initiative that yeah, I think we were all impressed as well. And I think if I'm gonna be honest, like they deserve the gold win. If I'm gonna be honest, like yeah. So yeah, so that was the gold. That was the winning gold project for when I was in year 10. And then year 11, the winning gold project was, I think it was around like this in the context of like the school canteen. They were selling like these tea bags that were recycled in the school or something. Actually no, they recycled the tea bags, but then like the thing that would, you know, like the tea bags, like, you know, like the stuff that's actually inside.
Yeah.
I think they actually made that their own from like recycling some stuff, so that they'll actually sell these tea bags to students in the actual canteen, and obviously it would be in like, you know, recycled packaging and whatnot. And I believe, yeah, and I believe they also like. Obviously, like it was bought, like the students would actually buy the tea bags that were recycled and like they were sustainably made, and then all that money would actually be donated to a charity, I believe, from memory. I can't remember, but yeah, that was quite impressive. And again, like they deserve. If I'm gonna be honest, they deserve to win the gold award as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's some tough competition. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely tough competition, but it's very innovative as well. Like,
definitely sounds like it's very like entrepreneurial in a way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, it's like it's coming from the students as well. Like, it's not just coming from the teachers. Like, again, like when it comes to the Rerum Novarum project, the Rerum Novarum projects, you need student buy-in to actually, you know, be actively involved in not just planning the project and organizing the project, but also executing the project as well. And that's what not just my school has done, but also all the other winning schools as well. So it was really good to see, because again, like it really just brings out the Catholic identity, not just in my school, but also all the other schools that were involved in the competition.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite heartwarming to see as well, because
Definitely.
yeah, Max, the Melbourne Archdiocese of Catholic Schools, I think in recent years they've tried to push out like this like vision for engagement thing, and I'm not too versed in it, but from what I sort of gather, it's sort of like a vision for engagement, like engaging people in like the Catholic identity and ethos, and like practicing like Catholic identity like in school more, and not just practicing it within, you know, just like school mass or something, or school liturgies, and just like really trying to practice it in everyday life. So yeah, I think the Rerum Novarum Awards helps to accomplish that vision for engagement as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention Happy Easter.
Oh yeah, Happy Easter
Yes.
to you too. How was yesterday? Did you go mass?
Yesterday was like not much, I guess. I worked. Yeah.
Public holiday rates?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
How
I
much
did get public holiday. Yeah.
How much did you get paid? An hour?
To be fair, until I get my pay slip, I'm not 100% certain, but it's 1.5 times, I believe, what I normally get on Sundays. So it's gonna be good money, I guess.
Yeah, because public holiday is really good to work. Yeah. We should have more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my friends before actually, and she works at Macca's, right? And she's only been working for Macca's at like for like the past like 1 to 2 years, and they've made like during yesterday, because yesterday obviously was the Easter public holiday, they were making over like $30 an hour somehow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Especially at Macca's. Like
especially at Macca's. Like Macca's is quite notorious for like obviously it depends on like where you're working, but like it's quite in general it's quite notorious for like.
Because there was a Macca's here at like the Westerfield shopping centre that got sued by the workers there because they were like getting underpaid, or they weren't paying like for certain shifts and stuff, and like they won the suing, so they got like thousands of dollars in like reimbursements. Yeah.
Yeah, and did they get like additional like reimbursement as well? Because like they won the lawsuit or the case as well, so I'm assuming they would have gone like additional like compensation or something.
I'm hoping, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they also like made the Maccas, and they started paying like $20 an hour for like the people that were earning like 15. It's like or 25 an hour. Yeah,
Mm.
because they made it harder to hire. So like,
Yeah, it should be good now because like I know, pretty sure you've heard. I'm assuming you've heard recently like they're gonna make junior wages adult wages, or like when you become an adult, like if you're 18 to 20, you won't be paid a junior wage. You will be paid like an adult wage. Yeah, it's come out recently.
Yeah, because some workplaces that they make adult rates 21. So like when you're 18, you're earning 18-year-old rates, but not adult rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be good for not just you, but I don't know, everybody who's 18 but still gets a junior wage, and
True.
especially nowadays, like cost of living isn't.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like especially for like international students. Like I believe, especially if they're on a visa, they will be on a visa. They can only work like 20 hours a week. So yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah. And some working visas mean you can only work full time for like 6 months, and then you have to find a new job. It's like a weird system.
Yeah, it's a weird system. It's quite unfortunate. But yeah.
Maybe they should change the system so like if your employer kind of makes some kind of application or like kind of says that you've been doing a really great job, you want to keep them, maybe they can like this kind of rebuttal like kind of the visa so that you can update it for another 6 months and keep going with the same employer if you're doing a good job, like, and people appreciate you working, but otherwise you're just getting sent to the next place and the next place.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why they do that. Like why they like every 6 months like they want you to work a new job. I'm not too sure why they do that.
Like maybe because they want more citizens in the workforce, so they want like working visa people to kind of like free up the position after 6 months.
Oh yeah.
That's only one argument I could think of. Another one could be in case, I guess, you know, sometimes there might be potential visa fraud where someone claims they're working one place but they're not actually working. But again, still, yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe changing every 6 months means you have to make a new application, keeps people updating their work kind of status rather than just like living off the visa and not knowing if they got fired or they quit or don't pick up shifts. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But if your like employer really appreciates you as a worker and like they want to keep you, like there should be an option for that, I think. Yeah.
It's just the way things work.
Because I had a coworker at like a place I used to work out. It's like a trampoline center that's about as deep as I'll go for it. But basically she's on a working visa. But you know, she got along really well with like the team and, you know, did a really good job and like they're still getting paid like what, minimum wage, like and now go find a new place and when they could stay. But oh well.
Yeah. It's nothing you can do. Like it's the government. Yeah.
And that's why you gotta just follow the rules or play the game.
Yeah.
Get into the government and then you can change the rules. Or at least vote on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now I wanted to ask, what is your dream?
My dream.
Yeah.
Dream is a really tough one. I guess like when you talk about dream, you talk about like a future like employment opportunity or like a future like
Doesn't
job.
have to be employment, but just a dream.
What's your dream?
Yeah.
It's a really tough one. Like,
and if you knew you would succeed 100%, what would it be?
Probably working in government. Yeah. I think, as I said, like that, like my like interest in politics and you know like the constitution and like especially economics, because economics is like the second basis to like politics aside from like legal studies and whatnot and like and the law. Yeah, I would say politics is probably I guess like my dream.
Maybe Prime Minister?
I
think you do more volunteering than the current ones we've had.
I guess I wouldn't say prime minister because again, it's like a huge responsibility, and it takes like a lot of like experience. It takes a lot of experience.
And I believe there
and
is a bit of
knowledge.
risk as well, because with geopolitics and everything, and
Yeah,
some countries try to lobby.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm more like I know a lot about both federal and state politics, but when like I feel like I would succeed more in like state politics because again, like if I was like the prime minister or in general, if I was like a federal MP, I would have to consider like the views and opinions and perspectives of like pretty much all Australians, especially if I was like, you know, on the front bench, like, you know, if I was a Chris Bowen or like a Jim Charles, the defense minister, if I was Jason Clare, the education minister, I would have to consider like the well-being and whatnot of all Australians. And I don't think I could do that because again, like I don't know all Australians. Like obviously I don't know all Victorians. Well then, like I'd rather like make decisions for the betterment of Victorians because I grew up in Victoria. I grew up in Melbourne, and I'd rather do that rather than making decisions for the entire country where, you know, I haven't even grown up in like I've only grown up in Victoria. And why am I making decisions for the entire country? Right?
Yeah, and you don't know like the specific pain points.
And exactly.
Or problems.
Yeah, and when it comes to bias, like when it comes to like bias in state politics, like, obviously there's going to be bias because like, and the bias is good because again it relates to the state. But when you have bias for like your own home state, when you're the prime minister or you're on the front bench, like, you know, as I said, if you're Jim Chalmers, if you're Jason Clare, if you're Chris Bowen or something, it can be really difficult because again, like how do you separate your views and bias from what you know growing up in your home state and from, you know, all the other states and territories? Like how do you like apply that? So I think state politics would probably be like my preferred area. But in general, like if I did have the opportunity to become like a federal MP or work in like federal government, like I probably would take up that chance. Like again, like it is like for lack of a better term, it is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, I guess, because like when it comes to like in general, like not just like federal MPs, but also like state MPs and local councillors, like they keep their jobs, like they don't want to get rid of their jobs. So like when that opportunity comes to, it is like a once in a lifetime opportunity that you probably won't come across in your lifetime again. So if I did get the opportunity to become a federal MP, I probably would. But I would prefer state politics because, as I mentioned before, I have a bias towards this state. I grew up in this state. I grew up in Melbourne. I have more knowledge about the needs and wants of people in Victoria and Melbourne and whatnot than I do the entirety of Australia. So, yeah. And I guess leading more into like the why. Again, I like public speaking and I like debating. I've been doing it ever since like year 9 and also do it like outside of school. And I also do it like obviously inside of school. Yeah, I just have a bit of a knack for it. And that's where I can, you know, like if I was just working in government and not just solely an MP, I could really bring those skills to my role in government and really just like improve those skills as well, especially when it comes to public speaking and debating, but also like policy as well. Obviously when it comes to, you know, as I said, when it comes to like proposal making at school, like a lot of those skills do sort of creep up into like government responsibility especially when it comes to like policy making. So, you know, like in the proposal, like thing that we had to like make and like fill out, like there was a lot of like points on how will this affect the students in our local community? What are the pros and cons? What are the things that we have to consider? A lot of those things can translate extremely well into, you know, policy making and whatnot. So yeah, I think state politics is probably the best way to go. And yeah.
And you can probably make more of a change in state politics because you're like versus like federal politics, like even though like you do play big impacts, it's more kind of some changes and stuff, but it's also like on a state level, you can create like an idea, like, I don't know, to reduce knife crime, machete bins or something, and something like that will just get through. But like, you know, like federal level, you have to get a lot more votes and a lot more voices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To get anything moving.
I think that buy-in is it's easier to get buy-in in like a state government or state party rather than federal level. But also in general, when like you do get buy-in and you know when you do develop this program, such as like I know the education minister Jason Clare, the federal one, I know he it's been like a year now since he's released the Better and Fairer Schools Agreement. So essentially, in a nutshell, it's to get more funding to public schools. But I think one of the problems, not problems, because again, like there's no problem with the funding, giving more funding to public schools. But I think when it comes to like measuring like the impact of that, it's quite hard to measure it on like a whole country level. But then, whereas if that would happen at a state level, it's quite easy to actually see the impact and the effect of that. And I think that's sort of what I want to sort of see as well, as like, you know, the impact of like me being in government in the state, at the state level, like, you know, seeing my impacts like firsthand. It's like, it's not only is it like easier to see my impact, I feel like, but it's also easier to like experience the impact as well.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah.
Because the Victorians have definitely a thing or two to say about the impacts they've experienced from our past and current leadership in state level, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, in general, I think it's just like on a federal level, when it comes to like audits or like reports and whatnot, it just takes a really, really long time because you have to consider all the 7 other states and territories. Then obviously, when it comes to just Victoria, all you need to consider is just state of Victoria.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree that Victorians probably would have a lot to say about not just like the current government or whatever, but also just like in general, like what past governments have done as well. Like not just like the Labor government or whatnot, but like also like the past Liberal government did as well. And yeah. So yeah, and also like, just like in general, like feel like the thing with like being involved in state politics is that like I can bring my experience. Like, if I was a state politician, if I was a state MP, I would be able to bring like my experiences from like right now and like when I was a child and whatnot. I would be able to draw on those experiences more readily, and I would be able to like I think I would be able to create more of like an impact with like, and like connect with like relate more to people who I would be like, you know, giving a speech to and whatnot, rather than on a federal level as well. And yeah, in general, yeah. And also like the decisions that I make and the policies that I might be involved in, I would be able to directly like converse with like, the people who would be affected by them more easily, because again, like they're all in one place, they're all in Victoria. So yeah.
Yeah, because some of them are your neighbors, some of them you walk by in the shops, some of them you buy products from, some of them you have been educated by in the past. Like, this is like the people. Some of them you worked for, some of them you worked with. So it's just the people you see. And then like, it's the similar way that Bob Katter might relate more to his Queenslander members when he talks about crocodiles or like those issues.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Versus Victorians.
Exactly, like this is a very, very hypothetical scenario. Like, let's just say that, I don't know, for some reason Victorians were voting to whether or not to keep Bob Katter in his seat of whatever his Queensland seat is. Like, obviously I think from an outside perspective, they would probably vote, I don't know, like they might not vote in favour to keep him in, but then obviously like the actual people who actually live in his electorate, right? They would probably vote to keep him in Parliament or to keep him in the Senate because they know the impact of his policies. Whereas, you know, Victorians, they wouldn't, because, you know, they don't feel, like Victorians wouldn't feel the effects of the policies that he would support or the effects of the policies that he would support in, you know, putting into place. So, yeah. Yeah, just more reasons why I probably would prefer to do state politics as well. Yeah, it's just closer to home is probably how I would sum it up.
Definitely, yeah. It's kind of like maintaining and improving your own home backyard rather than a bunch of other backyards that you don't feel as impacted by, especially when you leave office and you're just living in your state.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What, okay, this is another mutual one, but what were the extracurriculum or hobbies or pastimes you've had growing up?
Growing up, again, as I said, I didn't do swimming unlike my other siblings because I don't know, I was being a baby about it. I don't know. But I think some of my hobbies, I was actually quite sporty in primary school, but I think after COVID, that basically 2-year period of COVID, it sort of fell off a bit. Yeah, just due to COVID, like I couldn't really go out and like do some of like sports that I used to enjoy. So in primary school, I used to play like quite a lot of sport. I used to play like soccer and basketball, but I think I leaned more towards like I think I did like netball, like for like inter-school sports. I'm sure you've heard of inter-school sports, right?
Yeah.
So like for that, I mainly did like this version of netball. It's called Newcomb, I believe, but it's basically like netball, but you can catch the ball, basically. Yeah, it's a bit of a niche sport, but I quite enjoyed it. But then I also did tennis in inter-school sports, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed like the racket sports, like
Same.
tennis, badminton,
Table tennis.
yeah, table tennis, like ping pong and whatnot.
Squash.
Squash. Yeah, I would enjoy those. Also hockey as well. I did well. We didn't do hockey for like inter-school sport, but like whenever we did it for like our PE classes in primary school, I would enjoy it quite a bit. But yeah, I was quite sporty, and I didn't do like those kind of sports like outside of school. Like even with like tennis, I didn't really do it outside of school. But like during like lunchtime and whatnot, I was quite sporty, and I would like still play tennis during like lunchtime in primary school and snack time and whatnot. And yeah, but then obviously by the time COVID hit, I was like, again, I was still in primary school. I was in year 6. Yeah, we were in year 6 when COVID started in 2020. And obviously due to the curfews and whatnot, and like the travel restrictions, and like we couldn't go to the park and whatnot. So again, we had to stay at home, and like with me, that's sort of just like drained my passion for like doing sports and whatnot, and that sort of like led me into like not like I still enjoyed sport when I got into high school. I still did like it's like from year 7 to year 10, I did quite a bit of sport, but I wouldn't say like to the degree that I did it in primary school. It's not just because of work, but also just because like I think like it sort of like me being in lockdown for pretty much 2 years straight, or like 2020 and 2021, that impacted on like my ability and like my stamina and whatnot. And so yeah, because again, like I was inside a lot, so I didn't have the opportunity to continually improve my skills and also just like maintain like my skills. So I sort of fell off a bit.
Yeah, because you lose the level of fitness, and then when you start, going out with your friends to play a
exactly.
sport, you realize, I'm getting gassed, and I don't usually get gassed.
Yeah, and I remember like it got so bad to a point where I think in year 7, actually, we were playing this game. It was a mix of like basketball and like taking turns. It was just taking turns playing basketball and whatnot. And I remember I actually ended up throwing up quite badly. Ended up throwing up quite badly because I was like quite fatigued. But then I remember in primary school, like I would, like at times I would be able to like do more. Like I would be able to like do more, like run more. I would have more stamina, and I wouldn't actually get nauseous. After like I would do that, but then now I just like tuck it out and and also like I would have like I did try to like improve like my stamina and whatnot, and like I tried to get back to like my primary school prime golden days and whatnot. But like the thing, like just with like school and like schoolwork, and obviously we still had lockdown, like very, very disruptive lockdowns, like on and off. lockdowns in 2020 when we were in year 7.
Yeah.
That sort of like cascaded again, and yeah.
That was a strange way because like we're the only generation, or probably are the only generation that had lockdowns at the end of primary school and the start of high school in our transition period, which is like one of the biggest periods in your life.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, especially for me. I was lucky I didn't actually miss out on graduation for year 6. We were still able to hold it at another parish church close by. But yeah, it definitely it affected my transition back in going into high school in year 7. I think in terms of like my social skills, like yeah, like that, just like face-to-face interaction, like yeah, getting back into that face-to-face interaction, especially, and then like on top of that, like the expectations of high school as well sort of like ballooned, and I think I found myself like sort of like I still made friends in year 7, but I think at the start I was sort of like, I think everybody was like sort of like lagging behind as well.
Yeah.
Not just like in like their friendships and their social skills, but also just like in their like
Enthusiasm,
learning, enthusiasm, academic
curiosity,
energy as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Plus, it was like so strange because like when you're going into high school for the first time, we're all wearing masks and stuff. Like, then going in and out of lockdowns, online learning with a new class, new school, new faces. Yeah, it was a bit strange, but got some stories to tell our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they won't believe. Oh, yeah, it will be in the history books where you have to wear masks. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're locked down and doing school.
Yeah.
Zoom call.
Yeah. Have you heard like some schools have actually like started to go back to online learning because of the fuel prices?
The fuel prices.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like I know one school in Victoria, I think in Melbourne, I think it was a primary school. I think they want to because obviously like fuel prices and the cost of living and whatnot. I think they decided to have online learning for like 2 to 3 days a week to sort of like help parents, with like fuel and whatnot. Because like obviously fuel is like pretty like the prices of fuel are pretty bad right now. But yeah, so like, and that's really interesting because like I think all of us thought that like lockdown and like online learning would only come about because of like a virus. But like again, like there's so many other things that can like lead to us doing online learning again, and like this fuel crisis is showing that like like it's crazy. Yeah,
I still feel like when it comes to learning and like educating people, I feel like nothing beats in person.
Yeah, definitely.
In person, especially like with little kids in primary school.
Especially for like definitely for like primary school kids as well. Like that face-to-face interaction, especially for their early development, is like really crucial. Because again, like I think like in general, like students students like just like they learn a lot. They learn a lot about like socializing and like their social skills from primary school. And so like that face-to-face interaction. So like, obviously like if you take away that, they'll get so used to interacting through a screen that when they come back, it's just really, really awkward and like they're less like energetic. And primary school kids, like they're always energetic, and and I think when it came to like going in and out of those lockdowns, and like by the end of it, by the end of like 2021, where like it pretty much stopped in terms of the lockdowns, like I was talking to some of my primary school teachers back then, and they noticed like a shift in like behavior and like like tendency to like interact, and like the general atmosphere and vibe of the primary school classrooms weren't like what they used to be. And also high school as well, because again in year 7 in 2021 we also were in lockdown again. Not too bad, but again it was still on and off. I did miss that like face-to-face interaction as well. Not so much in terms of like building up my social skills, because I think by then like my social skills were like fine, because again I built it back up from like 2020 COVID. But yeah, it's just more fun to interact with teachers in person, and also just like other classmates as well. Like,
Definitely, yeah.
Like I remember after the lockdowns, we would always like my particular classroom, like in our subject classrooms and whatnot, like we would always like stand up and like talk to each other like in person, okay, obviously it's in person, right, but like we would physically like have our own like little conversations about where we would go up to like other students during like a downtime or something. But then obviously you couldn't do that in online learning, because you know we didn't because like everybody was listening, right? So yeah.
And with like online learning and learning from home, like some people were just playing video games the whole time. Like I'm a bit of a culprit of that as well. Like at times, like in especially primary school though,
Same.
like I'd just be on like a Discord group chat with my mates playing like Terraria while we're meant to be like in school.
Yeah.
But like we're at home learning. So like I think it definitely play an impact in also people being present in the learning, but also being, I guess, gaining the attention of the students.
Yeah,
It definitely played an
definitely.
impact on
Yeah,
that
definitely.
because lots of them, you know, you could just be playing a movie in the background, maybe you're on the Zoom call and they can see your camera, but like you could have a YouTube window open or
Yeah.
a video game playing at the same time. Like it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah.
And the teachers can't really police it as much because
Yeah, they couldn't.
everyone's looking at their screen like
Yeah.
they're supposed to. If you're looking away, then it looks like you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Especially for the kids that like learned or like learn in general, they just learn better like being in the school environment, but also just like directly having the teacher there to like answer all of their questions. I think a lot of students struggle with like getting help with like a question or getting help with the topic or the knowledge or the content. They struggled with like sending emails or like getting replies from emails because I think it was just like the way teachers would articulate things in person was easier for them to understand rather than them being like sent a whole paragraph of an explanation. And like in general, like especially if students had further questions, it would just be a back and forth thing. And it's just way easier to like respond in person as well. And I think those were the students who struggled the most as well. Not just like the students who in general struggled with like their learning when they were at school, like in person, but also just like the students who like needed the teacher there with them to guide them through the learning process.
They're
as
kind
well.
of more hands-on
Yeah.
learners, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to ask you about your earliest memory you can remember,
Earliest memory in terms of like
just in life.
in life. Okay, we'll just get this out of the way. My earliest memory that I can think of. This is so weird. Because like, do you know that like phenomenon or like that weird thing that happens when like people say like, oh, like you become conscious when like you're 5 years old or something?
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah,
thing,
like that's so weird. Like,
crazy.
and like I remember that happening. For some reason, I was just like, I gained consciousness and I gained like my own thinking when I was 5, and I was like in my mum's bedroom or something for some reason. Yeah, but anyways, I guess like my first memories like that weren't sitting in my mum's bedroom or something. What are my first memories? I guess. I guess like my first memories at like school. I'll sort of split this up into school and like home. My first memories at school were during like orientation, because back then at my primary school, we had like a buddy system. So like the year sixes would have a buddy with like the preps, and I remember seeing my my buddy in year 6. Well, she was year 6, but then obviously I was in prep. And yeah, so I remember like she was really supportive, and she actually wanted to like me to be there as well. Yeah, obviously she wanted me to be there, but also she wanted to like support me in like you know like going into primary school and whatnot. So I remember we were playing like this one. We were playing with like blocks and whatnot, and like this one train game. It was like, yeah, like it was very, very inviting, and I felt very, very supported in that environment. Yeah, it was really, really heartwarming because again, like I like I think in general from like a young age I wasn't really like the very very social the very very social kid in my family.
Extrovert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even now, like I wouldn't say I'm an introvert either. I would just say like I'm like what's the middle one? Like the ambivert.
Ambivert. Yeah,
ambivert. Like
that one.
I think like at times like I'm just absolutely drained and I don't want to talk to anybody. But like there are certain times where like you know I'm really like lively and whatnot, and like I enjoy being in the environment I am in and whatnot. But yeah, and then I think my earliest like childhood memory, like apart from school, would be I think because in like Vietnamese culture / Chinese culture, we have like usually what happens is like during Chinese New Year, you know, the red pockets and whatnot with the money.
Yeah, money. Yeah.
So usually what happens like basically the night or like the night before like the Chinese New Year with you know with all the fireworks that like go off in the streets and you know in the Melbourne CBD.
The Dragon Parade.
Yeah. Basically the night before or that very same night because the fireworks happen at midnight. Yeah. So basically that same night, we would all like all the family members, like the siblings, the cousins, the aunties, the uncles, from both sides of the family would come together at like the grandma's house or the grandparents' house, and we would sit on the floor. We would have like plates of food. We would like and we would you know eat food together and whatnot. It was really heartwarming because you know I got to be with you know my cousins and my siblings and my grandparents and whatnot from both sides of the family. Yeah, it was really heartwarming. And then obviously, you know, the money as well. Oh, yeah. Because that was also the first time that I actually got the money as well. Because, you know, apart from, because like the thing with actually giving out we call it red pockets. Well, that's what I guess like Australians call them.
Right.
But so when it comes to actually giving out the red pockets, there's only a select few people who there's only a select few people who can actually give them out, and those are the only people. No, the only people who can actually give them out are people who are married. Yeah. So basically, all the married people would like be like whenever they're giving out like the red pockets, they're giving out their own money. And so so like you know they're basically losing money, but then we're gaining money. Like all the kids and like the adults who are not married, they're all getting the money from like the people who are losing. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I remember that. Yeah. But the thing is, like obviously, like I would get that since obviously as a baby I wasn't married. I hope I wasn't. I wasn't married, right? So like I would also get like the red pockets, but obviously you know, like there's this thing that happens where like in like Chinese or like even general just when like families who celebrate Chinese New Year, generally like when we were little we weren't able to actually keep the money. Like our parents would always say like, oh yeah, could you give it to me? I'll give it to you when you're older for safekeeping, and they would never give it to us when we were older. Like but yeah, so yeah, that was probably my favorite or like yeah my favorite like childhood memory, like every single Chinese New Year.
Yeah. And every red pocket you got to keep.
Yeah. But then, you know, my mum was still, or my mum would like keep it for safekeeping when I was younger. But nowadays I get to keep it, so
yeah,
that's a bonus.
Yeah. You learn real quick the value of having written contracts rather than word of mouth deals.
What do you mean, like?
As in, like, instead of trusting her when she said safekeeping, you could have.
Oh yeah.
Paper, yeah. Looks like we're about to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I like to finish my podcast with the Marcel Proust questionnaire, which is like a personality quiz.
Oh yeah.
Shall we begin?
Yeah, sure.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
My idea of, starting off with a bit of a weird one. My idea of perfect happiness would be being around people who like you and love you for who you are and who motivate you to be the best you can be, I think. Yeah.
What is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear? it's not heights. I don't really have fear for like heights and like those like arachnophobia or anything. I don't really have those fears. But I think my fear would be it's a good question. I think my fear would be like not being able to not being able to like hang out with my family and my siblings and like whatnot, like as I get older.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just like losing that like experience of like always being around them, because like right now, like my oldest sibling is like he's like mid-20s ish, and he's still living at home. But then obviously like when I grow up, I won't be able to have that experience because I'll be the last one in the house, presumably. So yeah, just like losing that's what I fear.
Yeah. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
Yeah, this has come out recently. I think sometimes when I'm like talking to people, I'll like when they're talking, I'll like talk when they're talking. So basically, I'll like talk over them, and one of my mates mentioned it, and like I sort of like started reflecting on it, and I do it quite often, and like now I've been sort of trying to like stop doing that, like, and like especially when it comes to like meeting new people and like friendships, like that's really important. Like hear somebody's entire story or like what they have to say first, and then respond. So yeah.
That's a good friend. It's hard to meet people that actually pull you back on like
exactly,
stuff.
yeah, and hold you accountable as well. Yeah. Because like now that I really do reflect on it, like I do that quite a lot. And yeah, I've sort of just been starting to cut back on it a bit. So yeah.
What is the trait you most deplore in others?
It's a trait that I don't like about others, basically.
Yeah, strong disapproval against.
I think, okay, so obviously like people judge. It doesn't matter if they're judging you for a good reason or a bad reason, right? But I think people judging others without knowing them first and like knowing like why they might be doing something, why they might be interested in something, why they are the way they are. Because again, like they might have completely different circumstances to what you might have. And really just like, if you know them, you know the context and you know why they are the way they are. And I think if people knew that, if the people knew people more, if they knew like why people are the way they are, they would have more respect for them and be more kind to them. Yeah.
Which living person do you most admire?
It's a good question. I think my mum, because again, like she's sort of like the boss of the family. She handles like pretty much everything. Yeah. And like my dad does do some things as well, but I think when it comes to like comparing, I think my mum would be like, so yeah, that she's very much been there for she has been there my entire life, and she's supported me through everything, the good and the bad, and even now, like she's still putting up with me. So, and also she puts up with my siblings as well, which is so I really admire that.
What is your greatest extravagance? Which is lack of restraint in spending money or habit of spending more money than you can afford or is necessary?
Food. Yeah, I love eating food, and going back to like one of the questions where I answered about like different multicultural foods. Like like definitely like spending more on food. I just like food, like the taste and the flavor.
Yeah, get some good banh mi.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. On what occasions do you lie?
It's a really good question, because like, coming from a Catholic school, and I think one of my deputy principals would agree with me on this. It's not good to lie. But I think in general, it's good to lie if it's good to lie if it makes somebody. It's good to lie if it makes somebody feel better. I think.
It brightens the day.
Yeah, it brightens their day, especially if they need it, and especially if they're going through something that like they need support in. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your current state of mind?
State of mind. I guess uncertainty and curiosity, because again, like I'm coming to the end of year 12 and I'm, expected to choose my uni pathway or uni degree, because I do plan on going to uni. But in general, just like being expected to just like have things figured out, I guess. Like obviously, like as I said, like I need to pick out my uni degree, which I'm still uncertain about. And then even like once I finish uni, like what job I want to do. I did say, being involved in state politics, but again, like that's not a certainty. And like, my things might, like my aspirations might change as well.
Yeah. Or you could also apply for like a local city council kind of councillor position.
Oh yeah, but
and like try and get elected in that.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
What do you most dislike about your appearance?
It's a bit of an interesting one. I think my hair. Like my hair's fine, but like sometimes like one side will look better than the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's just like uneven, like down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Which living person do you most despise?
Oh, spies is okay. It's a bit of interesting one. Again, like I don't think I would necessarily despise people in the like the pure definition, because like I do like have to like work with people and like interact with people that I don't like, but I wouldn't say I despise them, because again, like it's like I do try to see the good in everybody.
Yeah.
Like even if they make mistakes, like I'll still offer forgiveness and whatnot. But I don't think I really have anybody who I truly like despise in like the strict definition of like I hate them or whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah. What is the quality you most like in a man?
Not being afraid to seek help.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. I'm sure you've heard of like the manosphere, the mansphere. Because actually one of my volunteering opportunities or things that I'm a part of is called the Men's Project, and it's basically it's sort of in the name. So basically, the general gist of like the thing or like the volunteering group that it is I'm sort of involved with like projects that like try to inform people about like the dangers of like the manosphere and like the man box and like the expectations of like a man from like the nuclear family, so be the breadwinner, be fit, don't show emotion and whatnot. Yeah, that's and I think because like it going back to my passion of like mental health, like that also affects men's mental health, and it also affects like their, again, as I said, like their willingness to actually seek help, because seeking help isn't a weakness, it's a strength. I almost messed up that. That's one of my directors of campus said in the past. Asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. So
Yeah. What is the quality you most like in a woman?
being really energetic. Just like it's fun. Like it's fun to talk to them and whatnot. Also just like just being energetic.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
Cooked.
Cooked?
Yeah.
I don't think you mentioned it once though, like in this.
Not here, but like
podcast.
in school, I usually meant like say like, oh, bro, you cooked.
Okay.
Bro, you cooked. Bro's cooked. Stuff like that. Yeah.
My stack results are cooked.
That.
Yeah. What or who is the greatest love of your life?
Oh. Does this include like past as well, or like?
Yeah, anything.
Okay. I don't really like in the past and like just like right now. In general, I don't really have one. Like obviously we have like a love interest, but I wouldn't say like they're like the love of my life.
Yeah.
Because like obviously like I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. Because like I think when you classify somebody as the love of your life is when like you marry them or something. That's how I view it.
Yeah.
So I don't really have that. But I guess also like the lead up to marriage as well. Like like being in a relationship and stuff. Like I wouldn't say I have the love. I don't have a love of my life or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When and where were you happiest?
When and where was I happiest?
Yes.
It's a good question. I think when I was in year 10. When I was in year 10, I was sort of like, because like in year 10, I sort of had like, again, I didn't have everything figured out, but like I was in like a pretty good state of mind. Like I was pretty like optimistic about my future. My grades were fine. My grades were fine. My friendships and whatnot, they were all good. Things were going good at home. Yeah, so like everything was going pretty good. So yeah.
Yeah. Which talents would you most like to have?
Being able to not stutter,
Mm.
because especially when it's a good skill to have when it comes to public speaking, but also I guess like extending from that, like not, just like, actually that, I'll extend this to two, that and also like being able to speak any language,
Yeah.
because like I can interact with people, like even if I like I would be able to interact with people I wouldn't normally be able to interact with, if that makes sense.
Kind of bridging the barrier in like their thought process as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so like being a polyglot.
Polylingual, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's
multilingual. Well,
yeah.
a lot
But
of,
like if you have like so many, it's like polyglot.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
But those two things, yeah.
And you can travel to any country.
Exactly,
just like a spy.
Yeah, and I can speak fluently, and then they'll say, "Oh, how do you speak so fluently?" I'm like, "Yeah, it just happened."
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
One thing I would change about myself. I don't think I would change anything about myself. I'm pretty happy with myself right now. Yeah. Okay. Like I don't like when it comes to like my appearance. Like again, I can't change that. But again, like I was given this appearance for a reason. But I guess like outside of that, when it comes to like traits and whatnot, and like communication, social skills and whatnot, I wouldn't change anything about myself. Yeah. That's just who I am. Like I think if we were all able to change things about ourselves, we would just be boring.
Yeah.
Like we'll all
Be the same.
be this idea of like a perfect person. Like it's kind of boring. Yeah.
Yeah. And it got to where you are today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement, I think, taking school more seriously when I got into when I started high school, because I wasn't really the best kid in primary school when it came to like grades and whatnot. But I guess also behavior. So also just like taking, and like the thing is like nobody told me that, like especially in high school, like when I was going to go into high school, that like nobody forced me to like improve my grades or like improve my behaviors. But like when I actually got into year 7 into high school, like I sort of had this like revelation in my mind, like I have to, I got to change, like I don't think I'm gonna do myself a service. Like I'll be doing myself a disservice if I didn't change.
Yeah.
And I think how I would describe my me right now, and I guess like my high school self and my my primary school self would be like that analogy of like a night and day difference, I think is what I would.
Definitely,
Yeah.
If you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what would you be?
I would be a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be a cat because like they don't do anything. Like they just eat food and
Just lie around.
just lie around. Like they
Jump off a roof.
Yeah, exactly. They claw at your window covers. Yeah. No, it's just like
Scratch your couch.
Yeah, you don't need to do any homework. Just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's peaceful.
Definitely. Where would you most like to live?
Japan. Yeah. It's just like a different environment. Again, like it's not the only place that I would like to live in, but it's just like the one that came off my head, and it's just different to Australia as well.
Yeah. What is your most treasured possession?
I think this like blanket that I used to have when I was little, when I was a baby. Yeah, because again, like it was my mum had it, and then like I've kept it ever since. So you know, it reminds me of like my childhood. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you regard the lowest depth of misery?
I think not having anybody there to support you. Because again, like people, like I think if somebody had somebody, like if somebody had somebody else to talk to about like their things and like their life and just like in general, just like what's in their mind, I think like like that would be a better like they would be able to get the support that they need. But then like obviously like, if somebody didn't have that access to that, I think they would lose all those opportunities and connections and like that will just like that ability to like vent and just like let everything out. Yeah.
What is your favorite occupation?
It could be politician, but I guess like anything that has to do with like public speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What is your most marked characteristic?
I guess like being open to like meeting new people who I don't know, like at NSCC. And even like in general, just like anybody, even if like they're not interested in politics or anything, or like they don't have the same interest in me, I'm still going to interact with them and try to get to know them. So yeah.
What do you most value in your friends?
They're friends with me not because of what I've accomplished, but like they're friends with me because of who I am. Yeah. So, because like again, like they're friends with me because like they like being around like my personal character and like my personality and like just like how I interact with them as well, rather than like, you know, what I've accomplished and like, you know, like me being like, I don't know, like a college captain or something. Like, you know, like they're not friends with me because I'm a college captain, you know, just, that.
Not like a status friend.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What is your greatest regret?
My greatest regret? I think my greatest regret would be. That's a. Yeah. Ended on. Is that the last question?
Second last.
Second last. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because it's a pretty good last question. My deepest regret. I think not, especially when I was younger, like not like actively trying to hang out with my siblings. I try to do it now. Like I do it a fair bit now, but like when I was back then, like I think I was just like different to my siblings in a way. So yeah, that's sort of like,
Yeah.
I still did interact with them because obviously we were living under the same roof, right? But like when it came to like that sibling to sibling interaction, that you know, the banter and whatnot, it wasn't really there. So like not like making an effort to like, you know, interact with them on like that sibling to sibling level. Yeah.
How would you like to die?
Okay. I would like. Okay, this is an even worse last question. I think in peace. Yeah. Well, in peace, and this like knowing that I did the best that I could with the time that I had in my life.
Yeah.
And knowing that with the time that I had, I helped as many people as I could.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Min. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for being in the podcast.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks.